What's going on, good people? It's White Matters again for another live stream. I hope everyone's doing well on this bank holiday Monday that it is. I pray and hope that your day and weekend really has been great. And I hope that today will be a good topic and we're going to get into some stuff. For those who are new to the stream and for those who are listening on the playback, please like the stream, subscribe if you're new. And yeah, let's get it going. Can everyone in the chat, those who are here, can you let me know how the sound is? Could you press a 1 in the chat if you can hear me? I want to make sure that, I've been talking and no one can hear me for this long time. So let me know how the sound is. Can you all hear me good and clear? No distortion, no nothing like that at all? So I can see a few people in chat already. So Skittles, man, Reloaded, how's it going? Welcome. Unstoppable Force, how's it going? Vincent, how's it going, man? So yeah, cool, awesome. So everyone can hear me, awesome. And how's it going, Fetch? Yeah, hope you're well. So this stream has really been inspired by a few conversations that I've been having in a few videos that I've been producing. And before I get into it, I just want to say this. I just want to preface by making sure that everyone's clear about where I'm coming from and what I don't want this to be. This is not going to be any sort of, what's the word, male bashing. This is not a stream where I'm going to come down on guys. This is not a stream where I'm going to hit you with a sledgehammer and say, you ain't shit, you don't deserve anything, because that's not me and that's not what I'm here for. That's not what my channel is all about. My channel is purely talking about issues and why it matters to me. I care about the black community. I care about black men. I'm a black man, so I do care. So what I want to do really, this stream is all about my channel is all about education, using statistics as opposed to emotion, and just making sure that we know exactly where we stand. Because I'm a firm believer in this. Once we know better, we should do better. And a lot of times we probably don't know better because we've not been taught for whatever reason. But all I want to do on this YouTube, all the reason why I'm even doing these streams is just to share my opinion on things that matter to me, and also bring the stats, the facts and statistics to illuminate exactly things which, for a lot of us, particularly in this UK space, and I'm sure you brothers and sisters would agree with me here, is missing in regards to just some of the voices that we have. So I just want to make sure that I lay it out clear that this is not that type of stream. So if you expect me to come with all that fire and heat for you, trust me, that ain't what it is. I'm hoping to have a nice conversation. I'm also not going to be talking for too long because the last few days has been draining. I've been on live streams, it feels like, for like 20 hours. So I feel quite drained. So I'm not going to be droning on for a long time. I just really want to sort of set the stream up, set some sort of the boundaries, the framework, and then get people on the panel to hear their viewpoints. So let's get into this. So the title of the stream is about patriarchy, because we all know the situation that we're living in. Third wave, fourth wave feminism, depending on who you believe in. And a lot of people in this space are saying, you know what, this is destroying the fabric of our community. It's taking away patriarchy. And this is what we want. We want to come back to male leadership because women are leading the show. They're running the show and they're fucking it up. And all these things I've heard for the longest. And I'm like, okay, cool. Okay, there's some things I agree with. Some things are just evident in what you see in your daily life. And there's some things which I just like to push back on and just like to say, let's provide an alternative viewpoint. And this is one of them, because my question today, and this is what I really want to pose, is, so then, say if things go back to patriarchy and men are now the leaders in their home, the leaders of their community. But the question is, are you ready for that role? And are you capable for that role? Because one thing which I'm always intrigued about, and for those who are in the working arena will hopefully testify to this and hopefully co-sign on this, it's always a difference being what we like to call a backseat driver or a passenger driver. Because when you're in a team, and you know how it is, if you ever worked in a call center environment, or you've ever worked in an environment where you have a team of people, then you have a manager, a team leader, a lot of times the team leader will say certain things and do certain things. And the members of the team will be like, oh, if I was a team leader, I'll do this. Oh, if I was this, I'll do that. Oh, we should do it this way. We should do it that way. We should do it this way. And here's the funniest thing about that. It all sounds good in a vacuum until, guess what happens? That team leader leaves, that team manager goes somewhere else, and there's a vacancy open. And that person who's chatting the most amount of shit now assumes the role of a leader. Because this is what we talk about here. Because say, for example, that now men, you are up in the leadership role. Are you ready to handle this? Because there's a massive difference between talking about how to lead and actually leading from example, because you have to deal with something which a lot of black men in this space at the moment seem to be adverse to. And this is one of the paramounts of leadership. And that is what? Accountability and responsibility. Because all the time I'm hearing it's that person's fault, it's that person's fault, it's that person's fault. But at the end of the day, to be an effective leader throughout time in history, you cannot blame anyone else for the decisions that you make, even in your own personal life. This is why I find it so hard to believe some of the rhetoric that gets thrown out, because there's a stage in your life at a big old grown-ass age where you have to take something called responsibility for your life. However the cards are stacked against you, we all have different circumstances that we're raised in. It's not our fault. You don't choose what year you're born, what country you're born, what parents you're born to, what situation that you may do. That is true. That is all facts. But this is also facts as well when it comes to us as, let's be honest, us as men. We are the group of people, the gender, who should understand this more than anybody about responsibility and accountability. And this falls into the leadership. Because when I was looking at how we fare as a group of, not only as a group of men, but as a group of people, as black people over here in the UK, I'm like, we aren't doing things which, by all counts, if we compare it to the other groups, is worthy of that thing which is called respect. Because people always say this, and I agree with them, but it works both ways. Respect is earned, not given. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. But this is the thing. Right now, from what I can see, we are not earning the respect that we see that we deserve, or that we think that we deserve. And this is how it plays out when it comes to the patriarchy, which is our own internal community. It unfortunately plays out when it comes to the job role, the job market. It unfortunately plays out when it comes to our women that we deal with. Because once we're in this heterogeneous society that we live in, because we're not in a society which is dominated by black people and for the most part are all the same race. We live in a society which has other races of people, which means we can see what other people are doing. And we can see exactly how we stack up. Because there's one thing saying, oh, you know, we're the best of our group. But when we look at other groups and how they do, how they fare, how their communities stack up, there's a whole difference in how the operation is run. And this is kind of what I want to get into, because this is why I think, and I had a stream with Vincent yesterday and was talking about some of this, and effectively the stream was talking about, because of we don't see black males in leadership roles in the same proportion as other males, because we don't see black men doing certain things which other men do in terms of productivity, in terms of accountability, responsibility, they all want to act road. What happens is we lose a lack of respect for black men. Now, whether that's right or not, I'll let you all decide for yourself. But the facts remain that this is what we see. This is what a lot of us stereotype. We get stereotyped. I stereotype ourselves sometimes. So it is depressing. And it is something which I just want to talk about. What does it mean to be a leader? What is leadership? Are we capable to run a community? Because whenever I go to a community like an Asian community, especially where I live, do you know what I see? I see a community that has sort of tent poles. So let's take the Asian community. And again, back me up if you're right. If you back me up if you've seen this before. But whenever I go into an Asian community, I see this. I see halal food stores. I see butchers. I see accountant shops. I see barbershops. I see takeaways, restaurants. I see banks. I see a complete structure that, let's be honest, has been built by the men so their whole families can be in a community which, let's be honest, a lot of Asians, they do conclave themselves away from the society for the most part. But what they have done is that they've set up a structure. There's a standard set in place from a lot of South Asians, which permeates. Whereas what happens when you think of the stereotypical black community? What are you thinking? And here's what I'm thinking. And again, let me know if you agree or disagree. What do you think when you see the Asian community? What do you think when you see the black community? Now, the reason why I use the Asian community is because they're a minority like we are. I didn't want to use white people because that's kind of an unfair situation. But I use Asians because, again, they're a minority group like we are, and they're non-white. So in the black community, here's what we unfortunately see. Now, to be fair, I do see barbers. I do see some like grocery type stores. I do see some hair salons, but I'll be fair, a lot of them are owned by South Asians. So I've seen a couple of them which has the cosmetics and things of that nature, but a lot of them are run by Asians when it comes to hair, etc., etc. But and also you have your takeaways, so West Indian takeaways, your African takeaways. But other than that, a lot of it is negativity. You would expect a lot of crime. You would expect a lot of negative behavior, negative. It's always a negativity when it comes to a lot of our Black communities. And why is that? Where does the blame lie? Now, again, people will be mixed on this situation about the blame, but let's be honest. If we want to be in a situation where we're leading as a group of men, we want the patriarchy, then we as a group of people will have to take responsibility for what we're doing, our actions, because everything cannot be blamed on the opposite sex. Everything cannot be blamed on racism. And there's a person who I'm hoping you guys are aware of. His name is Larry Elder. And he said this, and I completely agree with him. He said, Black men are not hurt or aren't failed by racism, but they're failed by excuses. And this is what I'm seeing the most. This is why, again, when it comes to that lack of respect, I understand, I can see their viewpoint in terms of Black women, why they don't necessarily respect Black men as what we think they should do. Even Black men, a lot of times, don't respect Black men. That's why sometimes you see the ridiculous crime rates with knife crime, gun crime, which is over proportionally than what other race of groups of people do to each other. Because I get the proximity, I get all of that. But still, we know that there's a problem within Black males in terms of how we view each other. We see it in our music, how we always want to come for each other. We always see it how when it's an older man, we don't seem to respect him. We don't revere him. We like, yo, I'm the next man up. Get away, get off. We always have that sort of viewpoint, which it hurts us as Black males. So before I can even say anything about women, we have to look at ourselves. We have to be fair and balanced and say, are we even the right men? Are we even in the place to even lead? Because when I looked at the stats from education, we are underperforming against every other group when it comes to A-level, when it comes to degrees, when it comes to employment, with the fact that we're not represented in the high echelons of employment. So the question is, how can we foster a community? How can we foster a situation that will allow the patriarchy not only to be in our best interest, but to thrive and it to be a standard? Because this is the thing what I really want to get into now. What is the standard that we're setting for ourselves? What is that standard? And I'm going to use a football analogy. So if you're not really interested in football, then I'm going to say, bear with me. But for those who are football fans, you would understand this perfectly. Now, over the weekend, there was a Champions League final game between Manchester City and Chelsea. Now, both clubs expect and demand the best. So much so that Manchester City lost that game. And Pep Guardiola, who is the leader of the team, so he's the face, he is the leader. The first thing that people were saying was not, congratulations, Pep Guardiola, you've won the Premier League, you've won the League Cup, you got to the final, semi-final of the FA Cup, you got to the final of a tournament, Champions League, the most prestigious tournament. Even though you lost, you still did well. They didn't say that, did they? What did they say? They asked the question, has Pep Guardiola failed? Now, this is a man who his CV stacks up with anyone, but they still ask the question, has he failed? And that's the kind of standard which we do not seem to have, because I'm always thinking, what team are we? Who are we as a community? Are we a team like Manchester City who will not settle for anything but the best? Or are we a team like, let's say, one of the bottom feeder teams like a Fulham, a Crystal Palace, a Brighton, who, let's be honest, are only happy to stay in the Premier League? Is that what we're saying? This is what I mean when I say me and Vincent will talk about respect and all these things put together in terms of our net financial wealth, property wealth not being the same levels, all of these things, we are comparing ourselves to other groups. And at the end of it, it just makes me think, we as Black men, not all of us, we are scared of this one word which we like to use, like what we like to use to women, but not ourselves. That is called competition. We are afraid to compete. I hear so many excuses about why Black men can't compete. Feminism, racism, system of white supremacy, Black men get stopped and searched more than everything. All these things I'm hearing. And I'm not saying these things aren't legitimate situations. Do not get me wrong. There aren't legitimate gripes. There are things which we do need to improve. I am no way near saying that these things are invalid. But I find it interesting how we as a group of people, and men in particular, we love to justify our shortcomings by excuses, but we won't give other people, whether it be genders or groups, that same type of leeway when it comes to their issues. And that in lies the problem. The problem is not that you want patriarchy. The problem is not you want submission. I have no problem with that. I agree with that. I agree with that whole sentiment. My issue is this. We as a group of men need to get our shit together first before we can say anything. We as a group of men need to sort our own communities, safety, wealth, education. I mean, I look at Asians, they have educational schools, Islamic schools, and it's not as if black people didn't have these things, but we don't know how to even run it properly. All these supplementary schools are pretty much done and dusted. And the problem I have is we then ask other groups to do it for us. That's what I hate the most. So we look like complete and utter, we look like begs. We look weak. It's this victimization, which I hate. It makes us look extremely weak. And this is what I'm saying. This is why I'm thinking you want these things. And I agree with it. You want patriarchy, you want submission, you want this, you want that, you want beauty, you want women to be fit. I get it. I don't disagree. I agree. But the problem is, what are we doing ourselves to make sure we're in position and place to do that? Are we doing what we need to do? What is the absolute standard? And right now, we don't have that standard. And what I want to do right now, because I don't want to talk for too long, I can see a few more people have arrived in the building. So before I continue, I'm just going to say hello to everybody else that I can see. Critical African Thinker, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. Fiona, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. I hope you all are well. If you are new to stream, please like, share, subscribe. If you listen to the clouds on your playback, please like. So I appreciate you all tuning in today. But because I don't want to go on for too long, so I don't want it to be necessarily the most longest streams. But I imagine that with this conversation, a lot of people have their own viewpoints about things when it comes to black male leadership. Because another thing that we have to look at when it comes to black male leadership is this. We're not just looking at black men in the West. We look at black people as a whole and black men everywhere. Because when I see other groups, for the most part, at least from the surface of it, they have prosperous nations. You look at white people, they have the US, the UK, they have Germany, they have France, they have Australia, New Zealand. They are hubs of white success, not just success, but riches, where people who are of a darker hue, they move to. They move, they go in, they take the benefits that the white people, the white male structure have set in place. This is how deep leadership goes, because leadership is about setting up a structure, which, let's be honest, other people can, even though other people come into your community to benefit, you set it up so you benefit. The Jews, when it comes to the music industry, the Jews aren't the ones who are rapping. The Jews aren't the one who are singing R&B. The Jews aren't the one on hip hop. But why are the Jews the one always being told that they are the problem? Because they own everything. They own the record labels. They're in charge. They make sure that they benefit, even though they're the leaders of the music industry. Same with the film industry. This is white people. This is other races. They can set up structures in which other groups, even though they may come in, they will always eat first and they will always eat best. This is the sort of thinking which, for me personally, I've always been on, in terms of we need to get black people in black restaurants, only this, only that. A lot of times, I think a lot of that is just nonsense. We need to be in a situation where we can set in place situations where, let's be honest, white people have been, stripping Africa bare, yet who are in Africa right now? Not that many white people. How have they managed to do that? Because they've been able to set up a structure, whether you agree with it or not. They've set up a structure in place that benefits them. And trust me, we know with France and how a lot of the Francophone African nations, how they're not happy with it. But I'm telling you, France, they keep in their foot on their neck because they understand exactly, they want to be the top. And this is what we need to be. We need to be fair to you, ruthless when it comes to things. We need to be competitive. We need to make sure that we are number one and that we look after ourselves. Now, again, this is how it feeds into the community at whole, because this is how it transforms into male respect. This is how it translates into being a provider, because if we have the better jobs, the better paid hours, even if you don't get the best grades, because as somebody said in the chat, getting great A levels doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a good job. I agree. But all of these are foundations. The reason why I go to education is because I'm going to tell you the truth. You very, very, very rarely get a dumbass who doesn't do well in his education running a multi-billionaire company. Even people when they name Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates. Mark Zuckerberg, he went to Harvard. He didn't graduate because he created Facebook, but he went to Harvard. So how smart do you have to be to create these things? You see what I mean? And keep this in mind as well. This is another point which is raised. This was all under feminism. So all under feminism, these things were created. So again, with the excuses, white people are complaining about feminism. White people are complaining about cancel culture. White people are complaining about how divorce rates are going up and how the marriage rates are going down. White people are complaining. They're not immune to what goes on in terms of feminism. You could argue, and it has been argued, that feminism is a white female trait. And the worst thing about it, if you really look at it, is white women of all women should not be complaining about the patriarchy. Because if it wasn't for the patriarchy that white men have put in place, this white woman would not be in a position that she can be in to relax, because of white men have gone out and conquered the earth. And this is something which, when we see on a global scale, not just on a local scale in the UK, this is what, unfortunately, when we compare ourselves to other group and we talk about respect and leadership and are we ready and everything, this is what we look at with other groups. China, they're looking to dominate in a different way, but they're looking to dominate. We need to look to dominate. And here's the thing with domination. That also means that we need to be aggressive. We also need to be competitive, and we need to be looking at the best, because this is what these other groups do, which we seem to lack. And this is really what I want to talk about. Now, before I open the panel, before I open the stream, and I'm welcoming everyone to the panel. I want it to be a nice, civil conversation. I'm hoping that my tone is not strong in any way. I don't want it to be that kind of stuff. So before I open the panel, I just want to play a clip that, for me, perfectly encompasses exactly what it means in terms of really to be a man. So I'm just going to play this clip, and I'm just going to and after that, I'm going to most certainly open up the panel, because I'm interested to hear your viewpoints on, are we ready to lead? I'm interested to hear your viewpoint on what does it mean to be a leader. I'm interested to see, are we as a group of men, are we ready for that leadership position? And that means, is that the reason why we're not getting respected? Are we worthy of respect? So that's what I want to do. And yes, the Skittles Man Reloaded, you said something completely true. Fair use. It's not going to be long clip at all, but it's from it's from one of the most popular TV shows, one of my most favorite TV shows. So if you've not watched this, you need to watch this urgently, because one of the greatest TV shows I think ever in my mind. So without further ado, let's get into it.
I have made a series of very bad decisions, and I cannot make another one.
Why did you make these decisions?
For the good of my family.
Then they weren't bad decisions. What does a man do, Walter? A man provides for his family.
This costs me my family.
When you have children, you always have family. They will always be your priority, your responsibility. And a man provides. And he does it even when he's not appreciated, or respected, or even loved. He simply bears up, and he does it because he's a man.
So there you have it. That, for me, is one of the scenes which really convicted me, because he hit the nail on the head. And the thing is, leadership is a tough pill to swallow. To be a leader is a completely tough pill to swallow, because he's right. And if anyone remembers or knows about Breaking Bad, they'll know all about the situation that took place and how, obviously, it was. I don't want to spoil it, but Skittles Man, it looks like you haven't watched it, but it's regarding the meth trade. But that scene itself perfectly encapsulated exactly what it means just to be a man, and how there are times which, you know what, you're not going to feel like as if you're respected, you're not going to feel as if you're loved, you're not going to feel as if you're even valued. But you know what, a man provides, and that's exactly what I wanted just to end on. And I've opened the panel. The link is in the description, so feel free to hop on and join on. All your viewpoints, whether you agree or disagree, is welcome, as long as it's respectful. So let's get into it. Charles, welcome to the show. How is it going, my brother?
Hey, White Matters. It's going good. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm doing wonderful on this day.
Great show. Great show. I really like the topic of discussion. It's really, really good. So
No,
I just wanted to open up with this. There's a quote I heard some years back that says that a man who is good at excuses is good for nothing, or is good at nothing. And I think that quote is very, very true. I mean, when black men are always blaming everything outside of themselves for their situation or for their condition, it calls for worry. It's a big, big, big issue. Personal responsibility is the single most important factor for success in any field, in any area in life, irrespective of what the challenges are. The challenges are external, but the greatest contributing factor to how successful someone can be is personal responsibility. So when you shirk that personal responsibility, when you're always making excuses, it's not my fault. It's the system. It's not my fault. It's the white man, and more recently, it's not my fault. It's the black woman. I've been I've been appalled. I mean, appalled for this past few weeks on YouTube when I see the type of interaction between black men and black women tearing themselves apart. I mean, literally tearing themselves apart. I've been appalled. I was in a panel with Vincent some time back. There were some African Americans there, and they were telling me how the women don't respect them and all that. And I something occurred to me, and I said, if your women are not respecting you, then you must be doing something wrong, because naturally women will test you. They want to see if you're capable. If you have not tamed your women, then you have failed. It's not because the women have gone wild. It's because you have failed in your responsibilities. You have failed to level up as a man. You failed to show up as a man. Your masculinity has not shown forth. Women respect masculinity, no matter how strong they think they are, no matter how strong they portray themselves. They respect it. But the way masculinity is being defined in the black community in most parts of the world is very wrong, and we need to redefine it. Black men need to reclaim their masculinity, and they need to reclaim their place. And that is the only way we're going to move forward. If you cannot even control your women, how exactly do you want to control the world? I'm not saying control as in subjugation. I mean, have a situation where the respect is mutual, where the woman sees you as a man and respects you for that, not because you're just a man, but because of what you bring, because of your contribution, because of your leadership, because of the skills that you portray. So those are some of the things. I just wanted to open up with that. So
no, and I didn't want to cut you because what you said there was powerful, and I really wanted. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to clip what you just said there and upload it as a separate stream, because what you said there was incredibly powerful, and I was really, really convicted by it. And you're 100% right. I mean, I see at the moment a lot of I think it's anger in regards to from black men in regards to everything. I mean, we can call it excuses, and it is excuses. I do see that, and I was saying that I do believe that there are some truth into a lot of issues, but a man above everything, he is solution orientated. He figures out the solution to the problems that he faced in, no matter how tough it is, no matter how hard it is. He always is traveling uphill, and that's one of the strengths that women usually appreciate in a man in terms of masculinity. And you're right when you said that masculinity needs to be redefined, because right now I see a situation where when you use the word control, and I'm glad that you sort of prefaced control, not necessarily abuse, because a lot of times I'm hearing the situation of patriarchy as if it's an abusive situation that men are abusing women. And I'm not saying that it hasn't happened in the past, but what needs to happen with masculinity, true masculinity, is it's calm, it's a lead, it's a guiding force, it's something which a woman respects and she wants to actually take your leadership. It's not an aggressive, emotional state of complete flux. And this is what I'm seeing from a lot of guys, for whatever the reason we could say, because they're raised this way, whatever it may be, but this is what it is. A lot of masculinity is missing from a lot of guys. So much so that when they're just conversing with a woman, I'm like, I've been on certain, I've seen certain panels, certain live streams, and just having a conversation is, they can't have a conversation with a woman. It's that bad. So much so that they're basically cussing each other out of their name. They can't seem to, even if they agree to disagree, which is human, they can't even do it respectfully. That is the question. And this is where the lack of respect comes into place. I understand why there's lack of respect from other men when they see this, and also the women when they see this, because the masculinity that they're showing, that ain't it. So no, what you really said was really powerful and really true. How do you, I was gonna answer your question then, Charles, because obviously you're based on a continent and whatnot. Now, how do you view black male leadership and black male masculinity in the West as opposed to where you are now? Are there some similar things which you, I'm assuming, don't like where you are, and obviously that you don't like here, which I can definitely hear? What are your viewpoints on the two differences?
Okay, and is it in terms of black male masculinity in the West and what you see here in Africa?
Yes, because obviously all black males in Africa mostly. But yes.
Okay, well, there's in Africa, I don't think it's as bad as it gets from the feelers I'm getting from the West. It's not as bad as it gets in terms of the relationship between men and women, in terms of providing that sort of leadership. A lot of men are still very, very traditional in the sense that they provide for their homes. They try to be that male figure. They try to be that male presence. And because Africa it's still a very patriarchal society. So
Mhm.
a lot of things are still defined according to gender roles. So the men clearly know where they stand as a man. Not all of it is not all of it is beautiful. Not all of it is good. There are some practices that may not be so desirable, but at least the men know to a large extent what it means to be a man and what it means to lead. Now that has not translated in the greater society in terms of organization of institutions, which is something you touched about, that we Africans have really not figured how to run institutions.
And I was going to ask you
That
that question because Vincent was
that is
raised a
really,
question.
really true. That's really true. We have not figured how to run institutions that are, they are independent, that did not need the influences of people, because in the institutions we have, most of the time, they are influenced by personal gains. They're influenced by ethnicity, nepotism, and all that. Unlike what you get in some Western countries, where once you plug into the system, it flows seamlessly. If you put in the right input, you get the right output. If you don't put in the right input, you don't get that. But here, we're still the problem. The problem of corruption is deep. Is deep, and if there's anything I will call institutionalized, that is one thing that is institutionalized. So
And one thing I was going to add to that, because I think this is where, again, we in the West are quite naive unless you have, like an African background and you're quite clued into what goes on over in the continent. And one thing I was going to say when it comes to almost masculinity is that I'll be fair to you, we look at a lot of African men, because you talk about corruption. That's what we see from the average African man. And I don't know whether you almost get a sense of disrespect from Westerners because, as you said, maybe the society is patriarchal, but because the countries are seen in such a way, you as a man are also put under that umbrella as, because the country's not doing as well as it should be doing, even if it has the resources, because the men in that country are keeping it down by corruption. And we always, when we hear Nigerian men, we always think corruption, or we think of a guy trying to scam his way, or there's always those negative connotations, which affects the image. So when we also have the image of African men, even though you're patriarchal, it's still under that umbrella, as we still lack that kind of respect, because the overall umbrella of where you reside isn't to be respected, if that makes sense.
okay, now there are two things you need to separate in terms of okay, but before I go into those two things, African men They know exactly, like I said earlier, they know exactly what it means to be a man. But two things: there's a difference between the institutions that are run and personal gains, or how people handle their personal issues. There is a lot of progress being made on the personal front by a lot of Nigerians, young Nigerians, startup companies, IT companies, and they're running it beautifully well on the personal note. But on the collective, especially in terms of governance, it is still a very, very big problem. The gains that we've seen in the private sector have not been able to translate into the public sector. Because at times there's this notion in Africa, people usually say that government's business is nobody's business. So there's no real ownership, unlike what you see in the private sector, where if a man has committed his money into this business, he's going to make sure that he grows that business, and he's going to make sure that most of the things fall in place, compared to it being in the public sector, it being in governance, where many people go into government as a means of making money. Many politicians, Nigerian politicians, earn far higher than many Western politicians. So when the crop of people that it attracts, the crop of people that the politics attracts in Africa, most of the time, they're greedy people. They're not people who have the heart of service. They're people who are going there to enrich themselves and to gain power and to perpetuate that kind of power. Now, also in terms of the image of Nigerians as being scammers and all that, well, that image is out there, but it's not totally true for the whole of the population. Most Nigerians are actually good people. Most Nigerians are um, fair people who do not want to defraud. But it is still there that there are some Nigerians who specialize in doing such things, and they are giving us all a bad image. They are causing a lot of problems for us, because when Nigerians try to go to other countries, they are made to go through much more rigorous searches, much more rigorous scrutiny and security checks, just because of those image. I mean, we're a country of almost 200 million people.
And you
So
know what?
if you have that amount of people, definitely you're going to have some very bad eggs that are giving us the bad name. So I just want us to separate the gains that we're making in the private sector,
Yep.
and that's in the government sector, which is just people going in for their selfish interests.
And the thing is, I completely understand what you're saying. I'm just going to play devil's advocate here because you mentioned the word image, and you was mentioning that, of course, it'd be foolish for people to think that because of a few bad apples or bad eggs, the whole image of a group of men should be tarnished that way. But one thing I've always realized is it never works that way. And this is where, I suppose, going back to, if you like, the black male and black female dynamics over in the West, where unfortunately, because call it what you want, it could be a few bad apples, a few bad eggs, but the image of black men is not one to be respected from a productivity. Now, there are stats that back up it in regards to we don't outproduce our women in the rates as other men do. But it's all about that image. The image of the black man, even though individually I know I'm not like that, but the image overall is what kind of counts. And a lot of times we do try and stray away from that's the collective, that's not the individual. But unfortunately, as horrible as this sound, that's the reason why black people are judged, or people are judged as a collective. It could be right or wrong. You represent all black men, you represent all black women, you represent the black community that you come from. So that image, although it be wrong, that's one of the reasons why I think there's an issue that we have, because we don't have a good positive image, at least from a footprint standpoint. So unfortunately, we do get judged on that collective, and I'm assuming, like you said, that would Nigerians get checked in customs a lot longer because of that fact. Even though I'm not like that. You see what I mean?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I'm glad that these issues are coming up. I'm glad you're talking about something like this, because I've gone through your channel and I've seen the kinds of content that you have. You know, it's it is time that we black men begin to take a proactive approach to bettering ourselves, because whatever happens in the continent, it is still the responsibility of us as men. If the continent is failing, it is because the men have failed. If the continent is going to prosper, it is because the men have taken a much more active role in making sure that things work and things happen. Naturally, men are supposed to be at the front, leading the charge for innovation, leading the charge for things to get better. So these kinds of conversations, these are the kinds of conversations I actually enjoy, that I like. And I hope that this message goes a long way around the world to as many black males as possible. But I don't know. I don't know if maybe I'm a little bit pessimistic, because you're going to get pushback from a lot of black males. You're going to get pushback
Oh yeah,
when you're
100.
trying to
I
give
did agree.
them this message of um, you have to do something, you have to be responsible. You cannot control your external environment to a certain degree, but you can control your own input. And I think that your own input is much more important than what happens in the external environment.
No, 100% agreed. 100% agreed. And I was going to say something, but I kind of forgot. But Fiona, welcome to the stream. How are you doing?
Hi there, good evening.
Hey,
Saying good
Fiona,
evening.
welcome.
Not saying good night. Oh wow.
Oh, yes, well, yeah, it's good night, isn't it, for us Caribbeans? How are you both?
Oh, we're
Doing
doing good.
doing well. So, what do you think about the topic today?
Yeah, I'm not going to stay on too long, as you said, but I just wanted to add that I think that the clip that you've shown, leadership really starts from the family, and being able to lead and provide for a family. And I think that that's basically the foundation of it. And I don't think it's very well represented within the Black community. So I think that's why, there's a struggle from the, with family, there's a commitment that's involved. I don't think a majority of, Black males have provided the example, that they're able to commit in that way, even from something as simple as family and family life. And also, I've always struggled with the idea that feminism, which is, merely a concept, how that's impacted Black men so much, and it hasn't impacted other males to be in a way that they need to be, in ways that they need to be productive, and why it has had such an impact on Black men. So yeah, it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on that.
Sure. I mean, I agree definitely with your first part in regards to it all starts with the family. And to be fair, I should have said that at the start, where when we talk about leadership roles, it all starts with the family. If the family unit is intact, then that will translate to, I suppose, the wider communities, and then it'll translate into how we set up our structures. There's a hierarchy, there's a sense of respect. So no, I definitely do agree about it starts from the family. And even in, I suppose, in my life, I've not had a male figure or father figure in my life, and that's definitely impacted how I see things. It's impacted in terms of my compass. Now, I'm not going to shirk away from I don't have my own responsibilities. That's where I think for me I sort of differ. I don't blame it all on that, but I do definitely see you're right. It starts with the home, and unfortunately, call it a stereotype, call it what you want. A lot of Black men seem to abdicate their responsibilities. And a lot of times I think, I'll be honest with you, to lead a family is difficult.
It is.
It's not as easy as it sounds. And obviously, Black women know this a lot.
Yeah,
But
I think that's why we struggle with this whole submission discussion. It's because, we're seeing our mothers in the home doing what they need to do. All right, it might not be, the best circumstance, but we also see our mothers working. And, if the fathers are in the home, it's usually a situation where we're both working and we're both providing and contributing to the bills. So I think culturally, this is why we struggle with the whole submission argument. And, it's very, very difficult, because I think we view it more as a team, and a team way of looking at things, rather than as one person being, good or bad, one person being head of a household, we view it more as teamwork and working together as a team, even when we do have a partner in the household. And I think there's always been the expectation for Black women to work and to contribute. I know my mum worked full time. I know many people as a nurse. I know many other fellow Caribbean women who worked full time and had children, and tried to fit in after school activities where they could. So it's always been a 50-50 equal relationship. So this sudden change in wanting a more traditional, submissive woman, I think it's all kind of, taken us by surprise. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I will slightly push back on that. I mean, I will say this. I agree with you because, like, even my grandma, she had a business and she worked and also raised kids, and obviously my granddad worked and everything. I just think it's maybe, and what I'd say in terms of a partnership, it's more of a hierarchy. So we sort of, I think it gets distorted where men want basically, I'm not going to use this word slave, but they want a woman to shut up and not say anything. And really and truly, I see it as a case of, in a business, you have maybe the CEO and you have someone who they need to take advice from, because the leader needs to take advice or needs to take direction from people who aren't the leader, but the lead. Sure. This hierarchy, there's still that person who has the final say, and that's what I think it should be. Like the man will have like the final say. It's not that the woman doesn't have a say, but when it comes to what direction of travel do we go into, who's the captain of this ship? And what happens with a lot of times when it's a 50-50, it now becomes a tug of war as to where we go. No, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go. And that's where
the lines are blurred. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I believe, from a male's perspective, with the feminism, and really with feminism, I'm going to say this because you made a point about you don't understand why feminism has caused a lot of these issues. And I'll say, here's what it really is. It's because beforehand, women weren't, women are doing a lot, not only women are working, but they're in better paid positions, but it's because the need on society is two people to work. So I think what the issue is, that men beforehand used to earn more than a woman. I think they used to earn 2 times they were female or something like that. My mom was telling me about this in the old days, but men were earning more than women, significantly more, which meant that they had the power. So with now, the power in regards to finances have kind of blurred. That's the reason why you see a lot of this stuff, because of feminism, because women are more in the office, women are doing leadership roles, women are in these kind of positions. So I think that's where it's not necessarily, well, it is feminism that's kind of caused it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I agree, but I still think that within the household, there is this expectation for women to still undertake the traditional roles. So, my mum still cooked and cleaned, and I, as a girl, for the most part, helped out in those tasks. So we're kind of, I agree, but it's kind of also, I think women sometimes take on a little bit more, especially if you're working and you're doing, the expectation is to do the child rearing and the housework and, to ensure that the household is run smoothly whilst also maintaining your career. I think there's just that little bit extra. I'm not saying that men don't do it also, but I think there is still that expectation for women. And I just want to say one thing about masculinity. I just want to say that I think Black men as a collective view masculinity and leadership in terms of their sexual prowess. So in my opinion, Black men see masculinity, is in their ability to, attract lots of women. Particularly, I think it empowers them to sort of go outside into other communities, and their ability to kind of, be in that position to do that. And I think that from what I'm hearing and this whole talk within the social media platform, that to them is a strong sign of masculinity, and this whole idea of Black women having to be more competitive. And I think for them that plays a huge part in the way they view their place within society. I just wanted your comments on that.
I mean, I will say this because you're in this sort of, I suppose, red pill space. So yeah, a lot of masculinity for Black males has all been about how much pussy they can get. Let's just be real, and how they can attract other women using their masculine energy. And you hear a lot of these things about game and mouthpiece, and it plays into the stereotype of the BBC stereotype, the Mandingo stereotype, which black men play off, particularly when it comes to interracial dating. Because this is, I'll be honest with you, this is what a lot of black men do play off when it comes to the mass. I suppose because black men, darker skin, they have that presence or that stereotype that attached to it, but that's how they view masculinity. But I wanted to bring Charles into this because we were talking about redefining what that means, because to really, for most and other cultures, it's all about your productivity. I'm not saying that other things aren't important about sexual attraction, don't get me wrong, but masculinity should be the forefront of productivity should be the forefront of masculinity. So Charles, I just want to get your take on it.
Okay. So let me just comment on the feminism issue. First of all, I don't see any correlation whatsoever with feminism and how poorly the black male is doing. That's the biggest excuse that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Because I think that in terms of feminism engagement, that black women are even the least of compared to white women in terms of engagement with feminism. So I don't see how that could easily really impact the productivity or the masculinity of black men. So that should just be discarded. It has really nothing to do with it. It's just a big excuse that doesn't make sense. Yes, in terms of the way masculinity is being viewed by black men in so many spaces, has to do with how much women you can conquer and all that. It still goes back to many of these men not being taught what it means to be a man. And Fiona mentioned something about the family structure. When you're growing up in an environment where there really are no male figures, it is not an excuse though, but it is an explanation. When there are no male figures to actually show you what it means to be a man. In the good old days where you had, for example, in Africa, where you had extended family, the grandfather was there, the uncles were there, the father was there. So there was no shortage of male role models to show the boy how to become a man. And when those things are lacking, somehow he would have to express his masculinity in some ways. And the easiest, most identifiable way for him to go is to get the women. And once he can get the women, he sees that as a definition of his success as a man. But we have to redefine all that. It has to be based on how productive are you in society? How much can you contribute? How much can you lead? Then I also wanted to talk about the structure of the family in terms of it being a 50-50
Yeah,
arrangement.
I was going to ask you about that because I just want to
Yeah.
sort of bring in Vincent's comment about where does all the submission talk come from. But
Okay.
you mentioned about patriarchy, so I wanted to understand the family dynamic on the continent. How is it 50-50? So yeah, talk me through that.
Okay. So I agree with you. Your analysis was spot on. If it ever gets to a point where it's an equal vote, at times you go nowhere. There's something women are very good at. They're very good at giving advice, and they're very good at seeing the little things that men cannot see. Very, very good at that. So any reasonable man would always listen to his wife's advice. Ultimately, the decision should still rest with him, which direction the family should go, because in no setting is there ever a case where two people are calling the shots at the same time. We talk about a company, there's always the MD CEO. There are other people that give him advice. We talk about a country, there's always the president. The vice president does not have does not he has his voice, he can give his advice, but the buck still stops with the president. So also in the family, the buck should stop with the man as the head of the family, but a wise man listens to his wife and takes useful and reasonable advice from his wife. So that kind of structure is what is needed to maintain the balance, to maintain the homeostasis that will give a family the needed direction that they need to go. Now, in terms of roles, I do understand that a lot of women are being overwhelmed because they have careers and then they still have to come home and do all those chores. I mean, in this age, there is no reason why the man cannot help out. But we also know that women are certainly better in something, so naturally they will just assume those roles. But definitely, a sensible, reasonable man would come in. Like the family I grew up in, I grew up in Africa, but in my family there were no distinct gender roles. Everybody did everything. My
Same.
father, my
Yeah.
father cooks. My father cooks a lot, and I can even say cooks better than my mom. So
Mm.
he used when we were growing up, he used to work in another city. Whenever I was around, he was in the kitchen. He was doing all the cooking. I cook very well. My younger brothers, everybody in the house cooks very well. You understand? But we still understood what it meant to be a man. So we doing those jobs, washing the dishes, sweeping the house, cleaning, it didn't detract from our masculinity. It didn't even, in fact, but the fact that we're in Africa did not even make it seem like, oh, no, 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 that you cannot do this as a man. So the family structure, the philosophy of the family goes a long way in driving what direction that family would go. But it's still not possible to totally eradicate gender lines in everything where it is now 50-50. You bring 50 of this, you bring 50 of that. I don't think that makes for a healthy family. So
I was going to ask Fiona on to that point then. So, in your sort of utopia, in terms of relationship, would you want it to be of a 50-50 in terms of you get equal say, or would you rather have a situation, I suppose, as Charles was saying, because even in my household, there was never women cook, men didn't. It was always we both cooked and cleaned.
Yeah.
We all cook clean. My uncles cook clean, all that kind of other stuff. So it shows in duties that's never been a specifically woman role. But how would you see sort of the family unit, and what would you like to be a part of? I suppose.
I think for me and for most women like me and in my generation, we've always been taught to some extent to, have your own income, to be able to take care of yourself sufficiently as well, even before you meet a partner. But having listened to other men within the social media space, doing things like pursuing education, and trying to obtain a certain level of career is not really um, you know what's necessarily the most important thing. And I think for me and for most other Black women, and from coming from a Caribbean culture, and I don't know, I suppose this is probably similar to the African culture. It's always been taught, get your education, get a good job, be able to take care of yourself sufficiently as a woman. um, I think, on all of these sort of hypergamy sort of level up spaces, we're also now learning that, we should be feminine. We should be seeking men that are able to take care of us. We should be seeking men that are able to, as I said, on another platform, provide for us if we decide to have a child. You see a lot of women from other races, they're having play dates, they're meeting up with friends, they're going and doing Pilates, during their, the time off that they're having with their children. They're having extensive amounts of time on maternity leave. And they're taking care of themselves, taking care of their bodies. And I think for Black women, we're looking over the fence and we're thinking, well, actually, I want a bit of that. And we're not saying that someone should be a millionaire, but I think from my point of view, and I think from a lot of other Black women's points of view, it would be nice to have someone, that earns a little bit more, that's able to sort of take the reins, especially when you're raising a child within its first few years. So from ages 0 to, I don't know, 2 or 3, you'll find a lot of white women that I work with, and non-Black women. I mean, South Asian women, they usually stop working completely when they have children. White women tend to reduce their hours, so it's part-time. So if you're contributing 50-50 to a household, this isn't necessarily going to be possible for us to do. So yeah, that's my point of view on that.
why is it desirable that you contribute 50-50?
It's not. I just think we feel it's an expectation. And because of the costs of living in a big city like London, for example, for a lot of families, especially a lot of Black families, there's no way you'd be able to sustain or to live without both partners contributing. And I don't know if that's because the Black men are earning less or what the reasons behind that are. But it would, I think, now that we're hearing from other women, I think a lot of us would like that same type of lifestyle passed on to us as well.
I don't know where the idea came from that if a woman isn't contributing 50-50, that it is a problem. Because from what you described now, the Asians and the white women seem to have figured it out, which is naturally the purpose of having a family is such that the man, because he is not encumbered biologically with carrying a child and taking care of the child for those critical periods of development of the child, he is out there, naturally he's out there to bring home the bacon. And the woman, she would be focused in those few years in taking care of the child, making sure that the home is good. That's a natural way of things. So I don't know where this idea
I
is
think
being
that
sold.
sounds lovely, Charles. But in all reality, from what I've seen in the Black community, is you have your child after about 6 months or after the 39th week when the maternity pay runs out. You're hustling and bustling to get back. Your child is basically raised.
Is that because of a lack of funds?
Yes,
Is that the
yes,
issue?
absolutely. Yeah.
So you mean
The childcare system basically raises your child, Charles.
oh,
Unfortunately,
that's terrible.
these government nurseries, all of your money is. I mean, in a way, it's kind of pathetic because the amount of money that these services that you have to pay for these services, but then still, when you calculate it, it's better for a Black woman to be working than not. So I think
So
this is where we get confused when we hear about this whole submission conversation, because we're thinking, hold on, in real life, I'm seeing this, I'm experiencing this, and it's completely different to what your expectations are. But you can't expect the same thing from us when culturally we don't have that those same things represented to us or same opportunities presented to us.
okay, two things. You mentioned something earlier that probably the Black men are not earning enough; they're earning less, which is a problem. I mean, if a man has a family, uh, it's the primary responsibility of taking care of the finances should be the man's. So he either has to improve his the skill set, so that he can get a better paying job, such that his wife can relax and take care of the kids in those formative years. In Africa, a lot of women have careers and they do very well. But what they do is that during those formative years, most of them, they do something light. Maybe they own a business that gives them that flexibility to be able to take care of the kids. And when the kids are grown to a certain extent where they don't need so much of parental guidance, she can go back to her career, and they actually do very well. They can go as high as they want to go. So the man has to the man has to in my country, let me say the Igbos. The Igbos are a tribe known in my country for their entrepreneurial spirit. Many of the men delay marriage till their 40s or even higher until they are financially stable enough to take care of their wives and their families, such that even if she doesn't have to do anything for the rest of her life, she is taken care of. She doesn't have to do anything. If she wants to work, she can work, but he would be able to foot the bills of the household. So it still boils down to male responsibility, because the woman, it's really not so fair on her that she has to do all these child rearing, um, and still has to do a job almost the same way the man has to do. It's really not fair.
One
So
thing I was going to
if the white people have figured that out, and the white women can take time off to take care of their children, surely we can do that as well.
Well, onto that note, Charles, because one of the things which I didn't show in this stream, but one of my last videos, is a lot of the reason why other communities can do that is because the black men, the men and women aren't so equally yoked in terms of the position that they have, and therefore the finances that they have. So how much earning income that they have, which allows for their women not to necessarily retire when they have a child, but work part-time. Whereas a lot of white men, they really outproduce their female counterparts. Same with Asian men. A lot of Asian men have businesses. So unfortunately, when it comes to black men over here, we don't really outproduce our women to such an extent where we can have a situation where, I suppose to Fiona's point, when she looks over the over the road and sees the white counterparts, how she can have lunch here or do this here. We don't have that situation set in place, which is why situation where unfortunately a lot of women have to come back quicker and sooner because they need that income, because it now becomes a 50-50 or 60-40 at best, if that makes sense.
So it still boils down to a failure of the black male leadership. It boils down to that, because if other races are earning so much that their women can take time off, then step up. This may seem harsh, it may sound harsh, but yes, step up.
And it's not like it's all white people can do this. The thing is as well, we sort of pedestalize white people, that white people all living in nice neighborhoods, white people all living nice. That's not the case. I've met white people who are working class, lower class, and that's not always the case. But there's just a better separation, whereas a lot of us here seem to really be defined in that working class downwards. So it's not as if all white people are like this, just to point it out. And not all the communities are doing all that better, but on average, they definitely are doing better. Fiona, you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely noticed a distinct difference in terms of when they go on to have children, especially like white women or South Asian women, so sort of Indian women. There's definitely a majority of the time a reduction in hours, so a reduction from working full-time to part-time. And I've witnessed black women who are having 2 jobs with children. That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's just transferable to the West, but this is what I'm seeing. And, I just think it's a bit of a cheek for some men to, especially black men, to get on platforms and say, we want this, this, and that. What about us? What kind of, there's no sort of compromise until what are you willing to provide in return? So, I just find that, how can you have multiple jobs and raise children and, ensure that they have a significant amount of time spent on them in terms of attention, their education, making sure they've got their homework done. A lot of parents in the black community are out of the household. They don't know where their children are come an evening. And this is a problem.
No, I know, and I agree definitely. I think it is, and again, this stream is not to bash black men at all, not anything at all. But there are failings from our side which I have seen, in which we do need to step up when it counts, and the stats back it up in how we are nowhere near competing at the same level as other races are. And even though we try and use most people at average, other groups of people don't see it that way. They actually want to reach for the stars, and a lot of them do, because they have that mindset of, I'm going to provide, I'm going to make, because at the end of the day, this is the thing which kills me as well with a lot of black guys' mentality, is that this is your family, this is your child. I mean, you do realize that it's a reflection on you as a man. So when I hear certain conversations, I'm like, you do know it actually makes you as a man look really bad saying this kind of stuff. And I can only go back to sort of, again, my childhood and some of the things which I've experienced. I'm like, you do know this looks badly on you. Say what you want to say about anything, but this is what men are judged on, providing and protecting. So say what you want to say about feminism, it looks bad on us, and that's kind of disappointing when I hear certain comments. But at this moment of time, it's just the culture we're in right now is it's a blame game and toxic. So
yeah, I mean, we've turned into a community of latchkey kids. You see black kids taking themselves home of an evening. I mean, especially now that I work from home, and when I go out for my walks in the afternoon, you've got these children making their own way home. I mean, granted, it's probably not that far, but still, the attention is not there, and I think it's showing in the communities, to be fair, because the
Yeah,
parents are probably working. Obviously they give them the talk, don't speak to anyone, don't approach anyone in cars, blah de blah de blah. But you see the difference in other children where their parents are greeting them at the gate, taking them home, or even picking them up in cars. Now, I'm not saying that some black children don't have that, and most of the older children are able to commute to and from school on their own. But for the smaller children, I certainly think that, and there's some issues going on in South London at the moment with children, black children being coerced into vans and things like that. So we need to be very, very careful. And if we had a family unit where the women were, able to be at home more to collect their children from school and things like that, then fair enough. But we don't, and I don't know why there's this whole facade. That we have this, we're able to be feminine and this and that. Well, we can't even get the basics right.
If a man cannot provide to the extent where his woman can relax and take care of the home, that is a big failing on his part. That is a failing on his part for which he holds the most responsibility. And
Can I just offer
that's not going to be pushed to anyone else.
Can I just offer a bit of pushback? Sorry, Charles, can you hear me?
Go on.
I agree with what you said there. That is a failure on us. Now, is it a case where because of Western culture, maybe do women demand too much as well? Because there are situations where you've seen it, I've seen it, where I know some things can be just ridiculous, but is there a situation as well where you can provide for a family, but you may not be living in a nice place. You may not be living in you may not have the best cars. You may not be having the best clothes, but you can have that lifestyle where you are picking up your children from school, etc., etc. Because I see other communities, and I'll be honest with you, from the communities don't look great, but it's functional. But is it a case also where a lot of women, especially westernized women and black women, they do demand too much?
I don't think so. I don't see a lot of black women living in brilliant homes or, being. I do see black women who are single and childless, who have really well-paid jobs that are able to purchase their own home. But then again, that's not a family because they're doing it on their own. Do we ask for too much? No, I don't think so. I think we just trying to keep the lights on at this point. Yeah, and I think that whatever we earn or whatever we contribute to the household helps it to stay afloat at this point. From what I can see with families, I don't see us living a life of luxury across the board. No, I don't. Even when black men become quite successful, we were talking about this. I know this is a different topic, but in terms of who they partner up with, and in terms who is going to benefit from certain types of lifestyles, it's typically not us. Obviously, that's probably different in the continent, but in the Western world, that's what we're seeing.
So, what is driving black men from black women once they get successful? What's driving them?
Well, I keep referring to this book by Frantz Fanon called Black Skin, White Masks. And essentially, he's a psychologist that looked into, black males living in the West and the effects of colonialism on them. And he basically came to the conclusion that, black men ultimately want to fit into white culture and ultimately want to be accepted into the fold. And I think it shows a lot when, black men say things like, oh, I don't want my children to struggle, so I'm going to get with another race of person so that my children can have a better prospects. And essentially, although they won't be alive to see it, eventually their family lineage will then get into the fold because most multiracial people marry white people. So you'll have people that look like little Archie. So, with Meghan Markle, her son, you'll have people that look like that. So I think that black men aren't willing to compete in the traditional way, but I think they're trying kind of going about it in a roundabout way because they want to be included in a certain society. I don't know if they're so proud um, in being who they are within the
So
West, anyway.
why aren't black women doing the same? I mean, why aren't they marrying white men? If the black man has decided to abscond and go for the white woman, why isn't the
Well, I
black
think
woman doing
I
the
think
same?
it's slowly changing. I think you are seeing more
Yeah,
of
the
them doing
stats
so.
the
Yeah.
stats do say that black women are interracially marrying, not to the same rates as black men. I mean, a lot of people have speculated. I think there's a few things. I think one of the things is women themselves are more loyal to their race due to obviously kids and things of that nature at all. And then obviously, I'll be honest with you, in terms of studies and case studies, black women do seem to be the least desired when it comes to like OK Cupid, Tinder, and those type of things. So I think it's a combination of how black women's. I think they do want to partner with black men because of the cultural things like most women do. Most women would always, except for Chinese, Asian women, most women don't interracial date at the same rates of their men. I've always realized that.
Oh,
Well, East Asian, I don't know. That the sort of Chinese,
They,
East Asian
women
tends to
love
be
white.
quite high.
They love white
but
men. So they do.
let me push back a little bit. What Fiona said about black men wanting to better the outcomes of their offspring, so they choose white women. I believe that is more a female trait than I would expect that trait more in the females than in the males. I mean, naturally, the females
Mm,
want to better the outlook of their offspring, so they will seek
yeah.
males that have those characteristics. So naturally, I would expect more of the black females to go for the white men since they are the most economically successful
Mm.
in the western part of the world. So why isn't that the case? I mean, it seems like it's
Yeah.
an inverse.
It is a very feminist trait, and many in this space argue that black men have become very effeminate. There's this whole, rage at the moment of women proposing to men. You can see it all over the internet. It's quite embarrassing.
Very embarrassing.
And it's just in some ways the roles have reversed, but then in another sense they're saying they want submission and they want a traditional woman. Um, in terms of black women seeking to marry white men, I would say that I think it's primarily down to our look. We look very different to any other type of woman. And as I was saying on another platform, I think that we're not necessarily upheld either within our community or outside of it as the standard of beauty. I think we're so far removed from the standard of beauty that a lot of men from other races would find it very difficult to approach. But then, having said that, on the flip side, I've seen a lot of women of a darker hue that have in turn gone on to marry white men, and they seem to you know be moving along quite successfully. And I must say that their status in society does seem to go up a little bit. So yeah.
Yeah, I do think a lot of it, not all of it, is a lot to do with status in society and how, let's just be real, whiteness in the Western society is definitely, because they're the dominant culture, is seen as something to be really looked up to and to aspire to be. Fiona, I just want to get your take on this because obviously we was talking about do women demand too much, etc., etc. Do you sort of? I mean, I've heard these talking points from women about they have to be 6 foot tall, have to be this. I think 6 foot tall,
Mm.
six abs, six figures, all these kind of things are tall. I mean, what do you say to this kind of stuff? Are men actually generally have a point when it comes to this type of stuff?
I generally think that with age and maturity comes wisdom. I think that when we were all in high school or school, for example, we were all going for one or two guys. But do I think that this is the case when we get older? No, I think our needs change. I think we realize that it's not just looks and the outer appearance, it's other qualities that you kind of look for, like can this guy be a good father? Can he provide? Does he have a really good job? But I think when you're younger, in your younger years, it's more, oh, is he really good looking? What kind of car does he drive? what trainers is he wearing. But I can safely say that in this stage of my life, that's not my priority. And I can safely say that that's, for the women that I speak to anyway, that's certainly not their priority either. So this whole 6 foot thing, unless you're really, really tall as a woman, most women, I mean, my uncle's really short and he's married to a tall woman. So yeah, I think your priorities shift and change.
I
No,
think I agree with you, Fiona. I agree with you completely.
Thank you.
That analysis, I do.
but I will say this though, as the pushback, just to be fair and balanced. A lot of guys do agree with what you said there, but the problem is a lot of guys, because they feel rejected at a younger age, and when women get older, and unfortunately, because obviously when women age, you know, hitting the wall, etc., like that, this is where men now get. This is a lot of time, especially in this space.
The revenge. They get the revenge.
Here it is. Here it is. It's
No,
the
it's not. It's, I
Fiona,
don't think it's a revenge thing.
no, trust me, Charles. Fiona will agree, back me up on here. It really is. If you hear some of the rhetoric that gets spewed out, and this is why a lot of this, I'll be honest with you, the conversations get so aggressive between the genders, because a lot of men particularly believe that a lot of the women, especially black women, when they were younger, they cared for the things which were just frivolous BS. They didn't care about the average guy. They didn't care about the guy who's just put his head down. They just cared about trainers, cared about cars, etc. And then when they get to an age where, let's be honest, they may not get the men that they want anymore. Now they want a guy who has his shit together. That has been the foundation to a lot of this. Honest to God.
Okay, I think what happens is.
Sorry,
you want to
Charles.
go ahead, Fiona?
No, I was just going to say that I think people are really hard on black women. They expect us to have the foresight at 15 or 20 when the frontal lobe doesn't develop until we're about 25 for most people. They expect us to have this foresight and say, well, this guy's a dweeb, but you know, he'll probably grow up to be an engineer. How are we to know? And it's the same thing with white women. I mean, for example, they intentionally seek out men in certain spaces that are footballers and things like that. And, you know, back in school days, would they have potentially looked at them? I think not. So I think we're kind of held to the fire, as it were, whereas other people, they're allowed to have certain expectations at a certain age. And I think we're kind of womanized from a very young age, you know, and we're expected to have this very adult demeanor. Same thing with black men. They're very, you know, they're masculinized from a very young age. They're not allowed to be boys, young boys. You know, they're criminalized from a very young age. And I think that's the same way with black women. We're sort of, you know, oh, you're too fast. You know, you're acting fast. You know, you're wearing a certain thing. If you know, I think we're very sexualized from a very young age, and there's this expectation that we should know better when other people don't. And I just think that's unfair in both cases, for men and women, and for young boys and young girls. You know, allow them to be at that age and understand that their mindset is going to be of a certain way at that age.
No, I agree actually, and it's one of the things I've always said about it. The black community are harsher to each other for, I'll say, mistakes that are made when they're young. Because again, you are right. I've seen this with white women. They wouldn't give a brother the time of day when he was nothing. Now all of a sudden he's something. Now all of a sudden, you know, because he can get her, he doesn't translate that she's only with him because of he's an athlete. And even when you see these high profile athletes getting divorced, I don't see a lot of them being black women divorcing them. I see a lot of white women getting a lot of these guys. They're divorcing them, and it's like they would have wanted you had you not been that guy. So I do agree with you in that sentiment that, you know, we are harsher to each other for the dumb decisions that we make when we're younger, as if by the time you're 15, 16, you know, yep, that's the guy who's going to be, you know.
Yeah, everyone wants the cool guy. No one's gonna look at the guy with bottle-shaped glasses and say, "Oh yeah, I want him." You know, naturally, you're immature, you're stupid. You're gonna look at the guy that plays football, that's really good at football, or that, you know, other girls want. You know, and you think, "Oh, look, he smiled at me." You know, it's just that all that childish nonsense.
It's the same with
And
guys as well, because guys look at women and like guys will look at the women who, let's be honest, are quite fast and loose. The guys have the same situation where then a lot of it's about marketability, but you're right. A guy ain't gonna look at a woman who, let's say, overweight, who, you know, who's not that girl. He's gonna look at the girl who every guy wants as well. So again, I've got to be clear, both men and women, it's not just unique to women. Men do this all the time. Men are complaining about the women they couldn't get, not the women who cared for them. So
Okay, let me just add this. Maybe I'll put it in the form of a question. What's the contribution of this phenomenon? You know, as men are ready to settle down, most of the time they're not looking for women their own age who are more mature, who have gone through their um, stupid phase, and they now know exactly what they want. At times they are still looking at the women in um, the phase where they are still immature, and these are the kind of women they want at that age. These are the kind of women they approach, and they get that kind of vibe from them. How much of that contributes to this lacking desirability? Because if the woman at that age, she's not ready to be with the man that's ready. By the time she's ready, the man that is ready is looking for someone that is younger, who is still in a stupid phase. So how much of that
I would
contributes to this?
I would argue that I don't know why it matters. He's the stats man, but I would argue that most people are married to people that are close in age, with probably about a 5 year gap. So I don't know if you mean younger as in 5 years or a couple of years, or younger as in decades. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it's a personal choice in terms of, what kind of the maturity of the woman that you're looking for, and what your expectation of this woman is. I think a lot of men nowadays are saying that they want to mold women, and they don't want women who are a bit more mature. But then, of course, with that comes a certain kind of mindset. But I guess if you're willing to put in the work with a younger woman, maybe decades younger than you, then fair enough, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the exact stats about the marriage age range, but in general, yes, most people do want to marry within their age range for companionship or the reasons at all. And the average age of marriage is higher and higher because of the cost of living, and it's expensive to build a family. Let's just be real, especially in the West. What happens is the exceptions to the rules are the elite guys. So I don't know if you remember. I don't know if you were catching this, Fiona, but Boris Johnson got married. Was it yesterday?
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, and she was a 35-year-old woman who, in this space, would be considered past the wall. So it's all relative.
But to him, that's a young woman, isn't it?
There it is.
Yeah.
I was going to say it. To him, that's young. Like, what's his name? Amazon CEO. What's his name?
Jeff
Is
Bezos.
that Zuckerman? Oh,
Jeff Bezos.
Jeff Bezos.
oh, Jeff Bezos.
Once he's divorced his wife, he's got a woman again. She's above the age of 35, but to him, it's still young. So it's all relative. I think the ones who get the really, really younger girls are, let's be honest, the really top the athletes and the rappers, the top echelon of, particularly in the black community, those type of men. But majority of people, they do marry within their own age range, give or take, depending on how financially stable you are. But a lot of black guys, let's be honest, aren't financially stable. I just want to say what's up to the chat, everyone. KB Jones, I see that you're here. Welcome. If you are new, please subscribe to the channel. Please like the stream, share the stream. By all means, we're having a conversation about patriarchy, black leadership. Are black men capable of leading? Again, it's not a black male bashing situation. It's just a conversation in regards to what does that look like? Is this why? Because let's be honest, a lot of black men may not be as up to par as other races. We don't get the respect that we deserve. That's kind of what we're getting into right now. So I appreciate all your thoughts. Sorry, Charles, you wanted to say something.
I have one question though. What's the merit in this? I keep coming across this online that in the West that many black women are just too combative. So what's the merit of that?
Is that to me, Charles?
I think you'd be best placed to answer that question. Yeah.
The pressure to speak on behalf of all black women.
No,
Yeah, I think there's definitely a cultural aspect to it. Yeah, but I don't know. I tend to find that a lot of the cultures of women, especially young women, are sort of merging together now, especially with the advent of social media. There's a lot of young white women who are into what we're into. So yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say. I think the personalities are sort of crossing over. But I think that kind of trope will always lie with us, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean that has definitely been a stereotype, particularly for black women, when it comes to attitude, being feisty, aggressive, rude, in your face. That definitely is a trope. That definitely, and I suppose the saying always goes, "There's no smoke without fire." So it's not as if, again, black men have been saying this for really a long time now. That there was a few old videos I was watching in regards to the reason why it goes to the interracial part now, why black men decided to leave and go to white women, because on the initial approach, particularly, a lot of black guys are like, oh, they just don't want to deal with the stress of having to deal with a woman who's going to be, not smiling, not approachable, not agreeable. So that's kind of where a lot of these things have stemmed from, and it's a stereotype that's kept all the way through. It's never really sort of died down. To be fair to Charles, it's always been like that as long as I've been alive. Let's just say that.
And that's why we've got all these femininity channels which are geared towards black women and, trying to sort of alter our way of thinking, our way of our presentation, the way that we, carry ourselves. Do I think it's going to be successful? I don't know. I guess only time will tell. But I think we're both from similar cultures. I think, as I said in another on another platform, that black men are very similar in personality to black women also. And I think with that comes a butting of heads and a clash. And I think that sometimes maybe the personalities of other women are more amenable to black men.
Yeah.
And I do see a lot of those unions working. But then, as I said, for me, myself, I would miss the cultural aspect, because it doesn't matter how charming someone is and how amenable they are. They're still not quite going to get it. And there's still going to be times where you're going to have to explain certain things. And yeah, I mean, to each their own. But yeah, I still think, although we bump heads a lot and we clash and our personalities are very similar, I still, for my personal self, like when I see two black coupling, and even when I have conversations with other black males that, not romantic wise, but just generally, we tend to get each other, and the interaction is just, it flows nicely, and I like that. But I can see, why black men are choosing to do that, and I think, fair enough if it creates peace. Yeah.
No, and one of the things I wanted to sort of add to that, and I suppose it goes back to us as black men, and I do believe this for both sexes, that, if both sexes are able to, I think the reason why black men aren't competing is because instead of almost raising the standard, because they can go to another culture, or they can have another situation where they can, let's just say, they accept maybe things which black women won't accept. I think that's the reason why a lot of black men aren't as productive as they should be, because you could argue in a black setting that wouldn't have been allowed. In a non-black setting, some of these things slide. I've also seen the opposite, where somehow black men seem to click and be like, now they're going to provide for their non-black woman in regards to providing, actually doing this kind of stuff. So it's a weird sometimes.
It does. It kicks them into gear, doesn't it?
Yeah,
because I think they see what's being provided over the fence by the other men, and they think, well, oh, I've to keep her, I've got to do this. Whereas I think with black women, there's, well, she'll accept that. Oh, don't worry about it. She'll accept a certain, this is what we're accustomed to, kind of thing. That, yeah, I think there is some sort of competition going on there as well.
No, I do.
Sorry,
see
Charles.
Yeah, no, I do see that a lot, because we're not blind as black men. We do know who, their white men are. We know their counterparts. We know what they do. So a lot of times, it's that hierarchy of races. There is a hierarchy of races that exists within every single society, and even in the globe, we see it, that there's a closer to whiteness is better. Therefore, I think there's this thing of, because we've got that white woman, we need to sort of show that we're worthy, as opposed to necessarily, if it's a black woman, she has to show that she's worthy for me. You see what I mean?
Yes, so I've noticed that. Yeah,
that's kind of how I see a lot of things, and it's weird. I'm like, so I guarantee you would never do that for a black woman, but for this person, you would do everything. You lose your goddamn wealth, half of it. You see what I mean? Like, okay.
It's just in terms of the black male perspective and what you see as having importance and what you place your importance on. And unfortunately, I think it's becoming more and more apparent with time that where their mindset is that there is a certain importance placed outside the community.
No, absolutely. And what's happening is it's creating like the brain drain. And I was talking about the class system in the UK, the black folk, and how because a lot of our best in class leave for maybe interracial dating because of status, et cetera, that seems to be the case. So unfortunately, it puts us in a community in a really bad spot going forward, at least. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. Um,
I think let me just say this before I leave because I have to go shortly. I have identified that there is no mutual respect between the black man and the black woman, which has to change. We need to learn to respect ourselves. We need to learn to respect our women, and our women need to learn to respect us because it takes two to if two cannot work together if they do not agree. And I see that there is really no agreement between both sexes within the race. When I see the videos that black women make about black men, and I even see the response videos that supposed enlightened black men make about black women, it just I'm 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 just ticked off. I'm angry. It's embarrassing. So we need to fix that aspect of respect. Respect has to be mutual. The black woman, she has some issues she has to deal with in terms of a combative attitude. She has to tone it down. She has to tone it down. The man himself has to he has to stop being so emotional. He has to actually grow up and mature up because you can't follow a woman with if she's being emotional, you're being emotional, then you're not going to get anything productive out of it. So I think those are the areas we need to adjust. The woman needs to be less combative, and the man needs to be less emotive. And with that, we'll get a better outcome. So thank you very much for having me in the conversation. I will be out in a few minutes.
No, it's been a pleasure, Charles. I always enjoy your wisdom. And yeah, Skittles, man. Yeah, I agree. But unfortunately, a lot of the sentiment is not shared in that respects. But yeah, I agree. They aren't that much better, but better than the least. But yeah, welcome to the panel, Unstoppable Force and KB Jones. How are you all doing?
Yeah, good, bro. How are you?
Yeah, man. All good. Unstoppable.
I'm doing good.
Cool. I don't know. I know Unstoppable's been in the back chat, so he's probably aware of the stream. Have you just caught up, KB, or you just
I've just caught up, but I kind of got the gist as well. I caught in a bit of you and Fiona situation. I'm sorry, I've been drinking rum. I've been with my family today, so I hope I'm not off scale. I'm a bit mashed up. But yeah, the bit of you and Fiona talking. Oh, excuse me. There you go. Hiccup. I do have to be honest. Like even when you was talking about in terms of expectation and sort of like a different type of thing. Even when it comes to friends of mine that are like females but not black, but you know, not white, it's almost like when it comes to the black man, even on a friend scale, right? I have to be honest, it's like not much is expected of us. And with some of my friendships, I've started to understand it's not necessarily a good thing, but understand how some of these black men and non-black women relationships happen, because a lot of the responsibility that will probably be a man's oh my god, these hiccups, responsibility is taken away, i.e. like decision making, money, etc. As I said, even from a friend scale, I'm obviously taken, but even from a friend scale, when it came to buying little things or picking up little things, some of those women, right? Some of these women that black men are getting with, they're used to having money. They're used to having resources. Some of the things that black people are not used to. So when it comes to by the time they've met black men, the only thing they've not had is actually a black man. That whole experience and whatever it comes with it. So all the rest of the stuff is minor. Sorry, what
I was going to. I was mentioning that about how with a lot of black men, when it comes to interracial dating, we're playing up the whole Mandingo, BBC type stereotype where it's about the sexuality. I suppose, and we will talk about our masculinity is wrapped in how much pussy we can get or how much we can conquer about any race.
Yeah.
How you're right. When it comes to a lot of, to be honest, it becomes a fetish. We're fetishized as opposed to we are cared for being what a man's supposed to represent. What happens is, as black men, because we can get pussy the way we do, it halts us from actually being productive in society. Whereas let's be stereotype, the Asian man, he's not known to be that, that masculine in that sort of rugged type way, toxic masculinity. So you would say he does better in grades because that's what he has to do. He has to provide, where black men, that seems to be the reverse. Would you agree? Or
no, bro, I 100% agree. Even from a friend scale, like I said, because some of these people I'm talking about are like Arabic, Middle Eastern, sometimes Asian, and these are like females as well. And it's mad because we're only friends because I've made a point of it. If that makes any sense, it's almost like we're forever teetering on the point of if I was to move to them, this is what we're going for. So I agree. I agree definitely. It's almost like a black man sometimes going with another woman is a bit of a cheat mode. And it's like it excuses them of any other responsibility in some cases. Do you know what I mean? It in terms of even leading, when it comes to these women, it's like you're leading, but you're not. You think you're leading, or there's appearance of leading, but you're not really leading
I've
because
actually experienced that. Exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say, bro? It's a mad experience, and I think it's specifically a black man experience, right?
Yeah. You know what I will say about that? It is a black experience, but the thing is with that is when you deal with girls in general, let alone black girls, you have girls that are trying to play a game with you. They're trying to see if you're the guy who has money, if you're the guy who's going to be a workhorse. So they would want a guy to lead, but it's to lead them to the things they want you to do, not necessarily what you want to do. So you're not really in charge like that.
Right. Let's see if I can make him do this stuff for me rather than where he wants me to go. I hear it.
And that's why I actually don't believe that, just because you get because I know on the other stream I was talking about, white, I would prefer white girl looks wise, but that doesn't mean I would actually get one, because the thing is with me with white girls aren't really that more submissive in my opinion. They're more feminine, but they're not necessarily more submissive. I actually don't believe that, but I actually think that it is hard no matter who you pick. But that's just what I think, and a lot of times, a lot of guys who do want a girl who's really submissive, it's like finding a needle in a haystack.
No, it's true, and first of all, I agree with you, the white girl thing, because I think a lot of black men misconstrued the fact that, look, I've always said this year, and whether it's they want to take it as a compliment or not, it's up to them. But one thing I'll give white women is they know how to get male attention. If there's one race of women in my whole life I've seen and experienced and observed, if they really want to get a guy in bed, they can do it. It's white women. I don't know how. I don't know why, because to me they're not even the most attractive. But when it comes to them, they have this.
But a lot of them are easy, though. I'll be honest with you. A lot of them are easy to get in bed. I know black guys who
I agree.
When looking to smash on a night out, they ain't going to check for a black girl because it's too much obstacle. They're going to check for a white girl because she's easy. That's always been how it is.
Bro, I agree. This is what I'm saying. Like, I've even mentioned this before. Like, I think more than any other race, when it comes to white women, without actually saying anything, you can almost sense that I can bang this chick. This sounds really mad for me to say as a married man, but I've had this multiple times. White women more than ever, you can tell. Look, if I try, I will sleep with this girl. So I agree exactly what you're saying.
I've been in a situation where white women will initiate on me, even though I don't date white women or anything, but they'll initiate. That's another thing which a lot of white girls, I've realized, they're bold in that sense. There are a lot of times I've been in a situation where they initiate things and you're a bit of touchy-feely, grabby, and they initiate a lot more than I've seen black girls. So one thing
sorry, so you can tell what you say. Sorry.
So one thing I just want to sort of switch gears a little bit and just sort of share a story of a guy who I met. I want to get back into what in terms of what is a standard that black men need to have, because this guy, he had kids from another relationship, but he was in a marriage with I think she was Moroccan, so she wasn't black, and he wasn't working. His missus had come from a great family, and his missus' father not only sorted him out with a job, relocated him to Morocco, and basically put him up. And this guy seemed happy about that situation. I was like, hold on a second. Is that the standard that because it's almost like, is that the standard how it should be? Because I was like, why as a man would you be happy with you letting your father-in-law provide for you, put you up, sort you out with a job, all these kind of things? I'm like, this is something which as a man, forget about everything I take approach to feminism. As a man, what is that the standard? What is the standard that us as black males should adhere to? Forget women for a second. Forget women. Because I think this clouds a lot of black guys' mindset that because they can get women, that's all what matters. But as a man, what is a standard that you think we should all adhere to in terms of, being a productive member of society? Because that's what we're judged on.
Well, do you know what? First of all, for black males, right? And especially for a lot of us millennials, zillennials, I'll even say to a point boomers, right? I think for a start, and I'm very big on this, and it's partly because I'm a father, and I'd have been happy to have had a boy or a girl, but I'm a father to a son, so I get to have an heir no matter what happens after this point. That's definitely something in terms of legacy that we have not left much of. Definitely fatherhood, and it's a shame, because not just talking for myself, but the black fathers I know that are really involved in their children's lives. When I see black men involved in their children's lives, they're really good fathers, if that makes sense.
Yep.
They really they teach their children not just the overall skills, the intricate life skills that will just keep you going. And then, as black people, there's certain things we need to know how to navigate more than others. So when I see an active black father, do you know what? I'm taking a side whether he's married to the mum or not for a second, but at least, being in the children's lives, I think we're very good. I think it's a very active thing. That's something that, especially in the early stages when my son was little, I really tried to incorporate that. I didn't want him to have the sort of uncertain, father-son relationship that I had with my dad, because even when my dad was in my life, he was very in and out of it, and then, as a point he was out of it. So that was something that sort of spurred me on. I think that more than anything, for a basis for black men, we need to start on, and then we can go into things like building, and things like that.
No, I agree.
In terms of the fatherhood, definitely. Sorry.
No, I agree, and just big up to you, KB, because obviously you're a father in this panel, you're a black father, so it is very important. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of times when I see black kids, I don't really see the fathers as much as I would love to do so. So big up to yourself, and obviously long may it continue, because
thank you, sir.
Even like in my life, in my history, because my father wasn't really in my life at all, and when he was, it really was in the same capacity as other races of men. And I didn't realize it until I grew older, because even though my parents divorced when I was young, one thing which my white counterparts did is that their father would still have like weekends with the kids. They will still be in their lives. They may not be together with them. They will take them to football games,
and get them swimming and all that type of shit. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Go to fishing. My dad never did that. My dad has never taken me out of the county. My dad's never taken me out of the city. My dad's never taken me anywhere like that. Never taken me to a restaurant. My dad's never taken me anywhere like that. Whereas I was like, I thought that was normal, but that's not normal. And when I grew older and realized other kids took them to like Maplethorpe, took them to Blackpool, I was like, really? And it's one of the things with fatherhood is so important, because at the end of the day, money aside, you're looking for love. You're looking for that kid, you're looking for that situation. And it's just, it's definitely good building blocks. On top of 4, so I don't want to not get you have a voice on this. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, for me personally, I agree with what you're saying. I think black men, like for me, for example, I'm born in 1996. I think that's like beginning of Generation Z. Like I think black men need to just focus on themselves, but not get too caught up in this money stuff. Like, because I think that the problem with when guys encourage black men to get money and things like that, what they don't understand is if that's going to be the bargaining chip in terms of using that to attract women, they're not going to win, because you have female nature and you have race, you have colorism, you have all these different things that interject and interconnect. So black men have to be more smart, and you have to understand the game as well, but also strive to do the best. So let's say they only earn £25,000 a year, they can save their money and invest into things, or just save it. Like, you don't even have to invest, you can just save your money. I think people today are pressured to just save and then waste it. The best thing for you to do is just to save. And there is a problem with black men, financing cars, wasting money on very expensive clothes. Like, I practice minimalism, like cutting your own hair, buying, cheap clothes on H&M, maybe next. You know what I mean? Like, you can find ways to save your money. So I think saving your money is important, and just maybe taking a break from social media as well.
Do you know what? You raised two great points. Cause I was thinking, when you said don't focus on money, it's like, I don't know where you're going with this one, because I wanted to push back. But you raised a good point about this, because I do think that we do need to focus on maximizing monetary value, because that is an important component of life, or however we want to shape it. Depending on where you live, you need to earn a certain amount of finances. But what you just said there was the key. You said about making sure it's not financing cars, financing phones, making sure you live at least first within your means. And that's where a lot of us fail at. Because I was looking at the statistics, because we don't have a lot of net property wealth, net financial wealth, which is our assets. We don't have that in comparison. A lot of times it's because we're stupid with our money. As little as it may be, as a lot as it may be, we're stupid with it. And that bogs us down. So I agree with your point there that we do need to have a, because like other cultures, I think, is it the Muslim faith? They don't believe in debt. I know older Caribbeans, what I meant, they would pay things in cash. They don't even believe in debt. So a lot of older,
they don't believe in debt.
Yeah. Whereas we now are a debt-focused society, and that hurts us like crazy. So I do like how you raised that point, because once you live within your means, a lot of things are more cheaper than you think. You don't have to go, you know what I mean? You don't have to be completely frugal and stupid. You can treat yourself. But
I will say this though, I think there is a condition, I think, that people are developing, black people, and it's called, I think, age post-traumatic syndrome, where people feel by this when they reach a certain age they need to be at this point, or when they reach a certain age they need to move out. Like, I think for black people, you should just live at home even when you're in your late 20s and save your money. That's honestly what I think. I think you should just stay at home and save until you're ready to move out.
Yeah, you know what? Sorry to add in. I definitely got add in with that, because a lot of I think I've mentioned before, I went to a high school that was, I would say, predominantly Asian, at least in the Asian area. Hence why I've got Asian friends and I've got insight kind of into their culture. And a lot of them, even after they're married, you see Asian
they
people, you
live
see a
at
lot of
home,
them with
don't
these,
they? Yeah, they do.
yeah, you see them with these big houses. It's because there's a good 7, 8 of them living in that yard. Not even joking, including either the son or the daughter of that family that's married, and their partners there with them. Like, and a lot of our counterparts didn't move out until I'm in my 30s, and a lot of my Asian counterparts didn't move out of one of the two parents' houses within the last, to be honest, 5 years.
No, I agree. I 100% agree. I've seen that so much. And the thing is, and Vincent, you were like this. You're raw. Demand to say late 20s. And here's the thing: it sounds weird because of the culture that we operate in. However, check this out: they stack their money, and what they do is that they buy houses. They're able to buy houses and properties straight away without having to go through the rental process. So here's what the culture do: they marry young. So Asians, if anyone knows anything about South Asians, they marry very young. By the time you're 25, most of them are married. And what they do is that with the family units, with their parents and grandparents, they're able to save their money better, and they can get a mortgage, they get a load of houses, and they swarm an area. So a lot of times I see, and this is like good houses, nice areas. So you're right. I don't know whether our culture is ready for that kind of stuff, because a lot of our culture will say by the time you're 18, you're a big man, it ain't gonna work because you're gonna butt heads. But and also you just
Bro,
leave.
I got to be honest. I don't want to say kicked out, but I basically got kicked out of my house when I was like 18.
Yeah,
You're a big man now. Go.
And the thing is, what people believe, and it can work both ways depending on you're a human being, is that it makes you grow up faster. But a lot of times it doesn't. It actually makes you, again, go into the rat race. Yeah, I do know some Caribbean families who do allow to stay their children home to their pensions. I do know that. Don't get me wrong, but I do know other families who they kick them out as soon as they come 18. It's like
I'm 25 and I'm still living with my mum.
Yeah,
I'm just about switching careers, doing my exam tomorrow, so I should be working. And yeah.
And the thing, especially nowadays, because of the cost of living, I don't have any shame with that. As long as you, like you're doing, from the sounds of it, is making the most of it, in terms of stacking your bread, making sure that you can actually afford to hopefully be self-sustainable. But yeah, it is a situation which is interesting, because in the West, it's more of a culture of, you do feel like at the age of 20, age of 30, should have left home, should have had a house, should have got had married, had kids, and you do get that little bit of I have that all the time. I should be earning this amount. I should be here. I should have done that. And there's a bit of regret as opposed to running your race.
I will say this. The one thing I realize is that a lot of the things we do is really just is to impress or to attain the opposite sex. And I think that's pretty much what a man's life is about, really. So I think it is dangerous when guys from 18 to 25, they've never even had a girlfriend, or they've never tried anything, or they've never even dated interracially. Because if they just jump into a relationship once they get all this money, they're unaware of how things work. And that's how you have all these black men with kids that are from failed relationships.
No, that's an interesting point that you raised there. And do you put that down to they don't have men in their lives, and that's how it sort of it continues the sort of this, I say dysfunction, but the not knowing what to do and how to operate in this world? Was that what you say?
You know what? I think even if they do have the men in their life, some of these kids don't learn anything because the man is not teaching them. No.
And you know what? That raises a good point, because a lot of times we do tout this. You need a man in the home, which I don't disagree with. Don't get me wrong. But you're right. It's not as if all men are wise teachers, wise counselors. Not like all men are telling these kids the right thing to do. And some of these men, they're better off with a single parent home or no parent home. He looks like he's gone. So you're right. There are a lot of situations in homes where I'm like, just because you're in a 2-parent home, it doesn't mean that you're going to be set up for success, even though that's what we believe. And just because you're in a single parent home doesn't mean you're set up for failure. Again, a lot of these things which I'm trying to get to is that responsibility and accountability. Unfortunately, we don't control where we are born, who we're born to, what family we're in, what country we're in, what language we speak based on where we are. But at a certain age, we can, especially as men, control what we do with our penis, how we spend our money, and what we do with our time. But I think for most men, because they see everything as a means to an end of getting pussy, it stunts their growth. If you can get pussy young, I think it stunts your growth in terms of being a productive man, unless you're that unique breed of you're still productive. Because most men nowadays, they want to get money and finances and status and cars for what? For women. And likewise for women, I've heard that once women can get guys that easily, their growth stunts as well. So it's a weird one, isn't it? I think both of us are needed to make sure that we are productive in our own masculinity and femininity. But if it's too soon, too young, it stunts us.
No, do you know what? I agree, especially from the black community's point of view, especially a black male's point of view. You know what, hit the nail right on the head. It's one of those where, and it's something I've been thinking about recently, where, especially when it came to particularly being a black male and women, I'm really glad in the long run that I'm not I didn't attract as many in my younger, and when I say younger years, particularly somewhere between say 15 and 19 as I wanted to, because for a start, I would have got myself into a bunch of madness. I got myself into madness anyway with what I got into, let alone the level I wanted to go to, the type of things. And to be honest, when I think about it, it's almost like with our community, it was like that was the epitome. It's like once you could get chicks, it was like I shouldn't even say I don't know how it is now, because I think the generation is a bit different. But it's almost like once you can get chicks as a black male in our community, it's like you don't have to try anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not said, but it's almost the case. Like once you can get you're cool. Like you can have kids, you have a legacy, someone will always have a child of you, you'd always get on. And if I'm honest, in the black community, as a male, if you're someone who a lot of females find attractive, you get ratings from that, from males and females. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing,
No, you're right. It's the
but you get
priorities.
ratings. If you can get chicks, you get ratings, to be honest.
Yeah, serious. We all know, especially in the black community, there are a type of men who get the most ratings. There would be clearly the bad boy, the thug, the roadman type, the guy who can get the women, and then the guy who's likely to be the guy in the sport. So they're the kind of archetypes that you get. If you fall anywhere in between those archetypes, you're really just wondering if you're too much of a nerd, you're a geek, you're unique. If you're not, you're just lame. You see what I mean? There's like there's three kind of archetypes you really see traditionally. And again, we could put that down to youth, because it's a young person's thing. It's not like people at that age has finances, has productivity like that. That's a very, older in the process type thing. But unfortunately, it stunts a lot of people's growth, because that's, for a lot of guys, getting women, that's all what it is about. That's the end game, where it shouldn't be the case. The end game should be about setting really a legacy in terms of your family structure. That's how it should be about us as people, black men, creating a legacy which spans far beyond just getting women. It's more than that. But unfortunately, that's the end game for most people.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, that is the end game for most people. Even for me, I turned 25 in like 3 weeks. I pretty much had my fill with girls, and I've tried pretty much every race. I've tried white, black.
Happy birthday, bro, by the way. Happy birthday.
Yeah.
Thanks, thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, I've tried every race, and I know what ones are right for me, which ones work for me, and which ones I find more attractive, and which ones I do better in. I have better results in. So I pretty much understand women to a decent extent and how to make money, even in information technology. I realized that it's actually crazy how easy it is actually to advance in information technology, and a lot of people don't really realize it, and it's crazy. So that's why I'm just focusing on that right now. But I will be honest, a lot of black guys, especially these black guys in my age range, are gonna fail when it comes to women, because they are gonna pick the wrong one. And you have a lot of young black guys.
Can I ask you a question, bro?
Yeah.
You've been mid-20s. You're look. You like we're in the same. We're in the same. All of us are in a circle now, so we know each other talk. You're an intelligent young man. You're articulate. You're also a good-looking young man. You've been 25 now, so you're actually an early Zennial, late millennial. You're a bit of both. I think you're just on the cusp, I think.
Yeah.
How are the females around your age group nowadays reacting to, okay, let's say you in particular, would you be an articulate, intelligent, and an attractive man, no homo, the productiveness of you, the fact that you've got plans for the future and you want to be productive, at least I can say when I was 25, that mattered only to a certain section, but to the majority, it was more about how you looked. How is it nowadays? Is that of any importance, or is it still, is the fact that you're intelligent, articulate, and attractive enough to them enough, or is that extra bit now an extra appeal, or does it not matter, just out of interest for like the average 25-year-old nowadays?
So from what I've seen, around my age range, it seems like money isn't important. It seems like money is not even the issue raised, and I realize that every girl is different. So the last girl I was speaking to, money was important, and even before that, the girl was a bit younger. The money was important, but I didn't have a job, and she didn't really care. But she ended up breaking up with me. But yeah, money. I realized that some girls at my age and a little bit younger, the money isn't important. But from 25 and over, I think 27, the money is important, and the girl pretty much just, sorry.
No, go on, bro. Go on, bro.
Yeah, the girl pretty much just looks at you as a security net,
A
maybe.
commodity.
Yeah.
And to be fair, that does tie in line with, again, of female nature and just regards to life and how I suppose people want different things at different ages. And Fiona mentioned this, how, yeah, let's be honest, and even guys are a bit like this as well. Let's be fair, how we look at one thing really when we are younger. I mean, we aren't looking to really get married when we're 25. We are looking to get married probably a bit older, and we're looking for a certain type of gal. And then when we get a bit older, now we're like, well, we want them to be able to do this and that's. But yeah, I see your point where you're coming from. It's not unusual.
Yeah, I've pretty much from what I've seen, it seems like girls aged 18 to 25 don't really care about your money that much. But from when you go over 25, you run the risk of a girl just using you for your money.
Yeah,
that's what I see.
Let me ask you this then, and both of you this. What would you prefer? Would you prefer a woman who wants you because you are let's say you're safe, you're secure, you got a good job, you can provide, or would you want a woman who wants you because, let's be honest, physically, she finds you physically attractive? Which one would you prefer?
I'll go first. So I would want a woman who wants me based on sexual attraction and mental attraction. Yeah. So that's what I say.
I would say similar, but that's partly because oh my gosh.
Dying. Yeah,
bless you.
I'm dying. It's because I'm smoking, bro. Sorry.
You need to cut that out, man. Health-wise, you need to cut that out.
You know what? When I actually start cutting down, I'm actually gonna do like a 60-day everyday stream. You lot have to push me to stop smoking, bro. Seriously.
Yeah, man. That's
anyway.
what live stream is like, bro.
Bro, I'll ask you every day just to make you not do it. Anyway, yeah. It's mad because I agree with Unstoppable Force, and partly because my wife has come from a family not of so much of money, but they made sure the family was provided for, so that was never really an issue. I think the main issue, which I didn't have a problem with, was her dad was very much distant from the children. He was one of those where he spoke with his providing, but the loving and the dad nurturing bit, the man nurturing part of it, she never got. So when it came to me in terms of a man caring about her, I'm like the one who showed it to her. So that's kind of where my successfulness has been in terms of getting to show the trait. And to be honest, with my friends that I know that are females, be it black or non-black, when they've come from a family of being provided for financially, it's the feeling, the nurturing, the loving bit, the bit they miss. I tend to find those people tend to look at your character more. But at the same time, so I think I prefer that to answer your question, why it matters. But at the same time, I kind of fall short of falling for that, because even in terms of my female friends, like, they like to always buy the stuff, even if I've got money. They're always like, and as a man, I'm especially being from an African background, I suppose I've still got the man's man thing in me. It's a bit undermining, like, oh, don't worry about it. I've got the financials, don't worry. You just make me feel good. Like, do you know what I mean? So that's the flip side. I don't really like that bit either. Some men are satisfied with that, but me, I'm maybe because I got a little sister, I don't know, but I've still got that. I need to protect the female in me. I can't help it. Like,
I get you, but I suppose with that example, and this is somehow why I'll prefer the sexual attraction part, just because at least you know the woman wants you for you. Because if a woman's willing to come out of her own pocket, then that usually means that she cares enough that she's not going to use you for, your finances, even if you do have finances. So I've realized women will actually pay for stuff for you if they like you. Whereas if it's a situation where, I mean, let's be honest, I still want to earn money for myself. So taking women out of the equation, I still want to be able to care for myself because I want to live in a nice place. I still want to be able to provide for myself and my family. So that's notwithstanding. But from a relationship standpoint, it will always be making sure that at least from a sexual perspective, she finds me attractive, because that means two things. She will want to be with me in terms of just to be with me and not spending money on her. And also there'll be a level of cooperation that you don't get if it's like let's be honest, a pay for play situation. You're not going to get that type of equal submission, but let's say a cooperation, because she's only in it because you can do this. And, you know, check this out. When the sex goes in a relationship, that's pretty much done. It's all but brother and sister relationship. So
I just want to say, because what KB add on to what KB said. He said you got, because you're African descent, African Ghanaian. You have the man's man in you. The thing is with me, being mostly, you know, Jamaican and St. Vincentin, which is basically Ghanaian, basically. So I'm basically Ghanaian, but being basically Caribbean descent, I you know, I didn't have that in my life, so I had to learn how to be the man over the internet, as embarrassing as that sounds.
No, not at all.
It's real, man. It's real. You're not the only person in this state. Trust me. A lot of people have the internet has been a source of absolute a fatherly figure. So no shame, man. No shame.
Yeah, not even just that. Like, for example, you know, because I didn't know Caribbean people come from Africa. You know. So
really? Oh wow.
Yeah. Like when I was younger, I didn't really know. So, you know, I looked on research online. Though even within my own family, you know, the story of the Maroons, which are basically, you know, people of Ghanaian descent. You know, you also have Nigerian in Jamaica as well. So these are just things that I didn't know before.
No, I mean, let me ask you this question then, because we talk about like male leadership and things of that nature. Do you sense a little bit of resentment and jealousy towards other men, I suppose? Because one of the things I was talking about is a lot of these things are why I believe a lot of black men lack respect for other black men in particular, particularly older black men. You see it all the time when it comes to a lot of the places that industry, we seem to have kind of a lack of respect to other men. Would you say that kind of stuff, knowing that you weren't, sound like you weren't raised with a man in the house to teach this kind of stuff, does that make sense? Does that cause any sort of create any resentment towards other men at all?
I did feel a little bit jealous, not necessarily at African, but other Caribbean people, because to me, I didn't really think it was possible for a Caribbean person to have two parents in a household. So when I go on Facebook and see other like Jamaicans and see that they're in a big house and they have two parents, I'm like, what does this actually exist? Like, wow, I thought Caribbeans come from dysfunctional or broken households, because there's a difference between a broken household and a dysfunctional household.
Yeah. No, that's true, man. I mean, and again, just for me, that's kind of the same way I see things, where I would see other black youths, again, of Caribbean descent as well, who would have their two parents and their father in the household, and you could tell the energy is different a lot of times, where you have a man in the house and just how it operates in terms of how to sort of interact, how to look someone in the eye, how to comport yourself, and it does get a little bit of jealousy in that sort of sense. So no, I totally feel you. What about you, KB? What do you think about?
Do you know what, bro? I really love this question, because it's really mad, because, and I really love the African and Caribbean comparison, because there is a distinct thing to put in terms of like the leading stuff. Because what I will say, regardless of when my mom and dad were divorced when I was like 7 or 8, I think I've mentioned his influence has sort of still been around in the males. So in one aspect, I'm very grateful that there's some things that I learned of myself, but there's still an underlying aspect. But like I've said, I have grown up with mainly Caribbeans. I'm sure definitely over 90% of the people I've had a very close relationship in have been Caribbean, particularly, I think, Jamaican, to be honest. And yes, I've learned certain male traits overall, which has been very, very beneficial to me, especially in this Western society as a black man. You know, you need to earn a certain income. You need to raise your family properly. You need to have a legacy. You need to get education and all this stuff. That stuff I followed. That's fine. But what I didn't get from the African side, and what I definitely learned from my Caribbean peers, and I was close to a lot of their friends, mums, aunties, sisters, And like I said, a lot of the times, most of my, and my wife even still now, most of the women I was attracted to were Caribbean, was in terms of intricate little, not only street skills, but life skills. Like there's the little tiny ones, like, for example, little things like the concept of how to sew, the concept um of cooking. I learned it from my mom, but I learned it from a lot of people's things, little tiny things as well, which also produce, all fall into being a man. But with my mom, she taught me how to iron. She taught me how to be generally domestic. Again, these are sort of things in terms of the Black community. I don't think we like to attribute it towards women, but like I try to teach my son all these things. I'm currently teaching him how to iron now. He's going to be domestic. I do not want him to be one of the, like, he's half Caribbean, half Ghanaian, whether he's British or not. I do not want him to be, whatever woman he gets with, to have to depend on the woman to even iron his clothes. You know what I mean? Crease his garments, little stupidness like that. Because
No,
there's
no,
too much
no.
of us, where we're African or Caribbean, where it's basic stuff where I think doesn't help to underline the fact of us be able to lead. Little tiny things. So much of us don't know how to wash our clothes. It's embarrassing, brother.
Do you know what? Yeah, I was going to say something on that, and it's like a perfect segue to get back to the topic of patriarchy and leadership, because I was having this conversation with Charles and Fiona before you were here, KB, about how, and I think sometimes this depends on the household you're in, because in Fiona's household, it was more of a case of the women would be doing the domestic, the typical what we call female traits. The men wouldn't. Whereas in Charles and my household, there was no separation of duties. However, I definitely do know in a lot of other households there was, the woman would cook, the woman would clean, the man wouldn't do any of that kind of stuff. And even when it got to like uni, and I always thought this again was like a white trait where kids would go home back to their parents to give them washing. I was like, hold on, I was washing my clothes when I was like 13. I was cleaning when I was 13. I mean, the concept for me at that stage, because of how I grew up about that kind of stuff, was very interesting, because I thought, why are you guys going back to your mum's house to wash your clothes? Wash it your damn self. But they didn't know how to. And I suppose it comes to the question I'm going to ask is, with that, do you think that's the reason why men, particularly, or even I suppose when it comes to the leadership in the household, the structure in the household, we're ill prepared and ill capable to lead? Because let's be honest, a lot of things that we were learned or taught is we weren't taught the right things.
I think definitely. And what's sad about the Black community, and this is not me having a go at Black mothers, because I think Black mothers do an amazing job considering the amount of pressure they're under. So it's not me having a go at them, but because a lot of us are brought up under single mums, we get to the point where even when we're young men and teenagers, we get to the point of having to seek a female for either definitive answers and or leadership. I remember having the feeling of, with my first sort of girlfriends, and even when we're out in public, little things like I would second guess everything, and let me get her opinion. If she says it's cool, and it's an offshoot of getting permission from your mum, because there was no male to ask. It was always the women in charge. Now, again, that's not a slight on the women, because God bless them, they did what they dealt with the hand they what they was dealt with, and they did the most for us. I will say, but this is part into the sort of male leadership that we don't seem to have and lack of, because of the examples, and especially us being millennials and zillennials, and I'm even going to say boomers. A lot of us grew up with just mum in the house and bare kids. Them families where there's like 5 kids and there's like just mum. And it's like, what are you gonna learn from that? The girls are gonna learn, okay, women have to fend for themselves. I'm gonna have to raise all the youth them. And then the men are gonna learn, well, okay, I've got to be the man of the house until I get to a certain age. And then when I get to whenever I breed up a woman, I can just bounce, depending if, do you know them ones? And it's like some of the reasonings, like, I know I can come off quite male chauvinistic, but some of the reasonings as well, like, I've had mad ex-girlfriends as well. God forbid, I've only got one child, innit? God forbid I've got any children out there I don't know about. I don't think so. I think I've been careful enough to be quite certain. but God forbid, innit? But there's too many that just still this cycle, sort of like this, bruv. I hate this baby mother thing. I've got to be honest, bruv. Look, if you're gonna sleep a lot of chicks, and if you're someone who can get a lot of females, especially of different races, look, I'm not gonna knock you, I'm not gonna dick police you. But this breeding up of different females and children here, there, and everywhere now, there's like, especially in like me and you white mans, I think we're both millennials.
Yep.
Even people of our age, there's a lot of people that are like, oh, I've got a baby mother here, I've got a baby mother here, I'll see my youth whenever. Bro, what do you mean you'll suit you whenever, bro? Like,
This
do you
is
know
it.
them ones? Like,
I know someone who has 9 kids with 8 different mothers. It's like,
bro, what?
serious. And the thing is, I know it's not the norm, it's not the average, but the problem is I'm having is it's because guys can do this. Guys can knock up different types of women and leave. They can do that. Women can't be knocked up multiple times in the same sitting. It's impossible. But it's just it's a mad one. It leads to a dysfunctional situation. Not only broken but dysfunctional, because let's be honest, there's no way near you can give every child the adequate love and care it needs, because you've got so many children in different households and you have different baby mothers of different needs, different problems, different scenarios. And a lot of times you have certain kids who unfortunately they like least because their baby mother they don't like. It's just like you get those situations in that sort of respect, in that situation. But I just want to touch on something you said, KB, about because you're raised in that situation, and Vincent said, yep, I'm the same way. In regards to, you still defer to female leadership. And that's something which, you know what, that is a little bit like, I'm like that sometimes, where there's situations where I defer, not just to women, but in other men. I defer sometimes where I'm like, I'm not confident of myself enough. And a lot of times like, come on, you can do this. I'm good at this. I can do this, but I defer. And it's that little bit, which just, for me, is that masculinity part, which I'm like missing. Because even me at my big old age, I'm like, I should be doing this, I should be doing, but I still have that. Does anyone understand what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Go on, baby.
No, I'm sorry, bro. No, I was gonna say that uncertainty, that doubt. I definitely agree. And you know what? This is one of the reasons why I married my now wife, because she was probably the first person that was like, no, babe, we'll go off your decision. Like, it took me a while. It took me the first, I'll be honest, the first couple of years, we had a bit of a struggle, because she was used to, okay, you take the lead, I'm gonna follow. You're the man. And it was kind of like, what do you mean I'm the man? What? So what? You're not contributing? It was almost like I would get mad at her for allowing me to lead.
Yeah,
like, what do you mean? Like, it's like, okay, she would say something like, oh, babe, can we go out this weekend? And it's like, yeah. And then what's the first thing I say? Oh, where do you want to go? Oh, where anywhere you want to go, babe. But you see, already I'm deflecting it onto her. What do you mean? Oh, bro, I don't need to be upset. And we'll get into argument before we've even gone. Because I'm getting angry at her because she's not making a decision. Because it's like, why do I have to do with it? I'm the man. Of course I've got to fucking do it. You know them ones, like, I'm trying to teach my son that, like, take it on. Even when his big 30 plus mum, look, you're 9 years old, but you know what? You're the man, innit? Like, if there's an issue, take it out of mum's hands. You make a choice. Do you know them ones? Like, I want him to get that already. Like, he's starting to have goals like him. I wish I could see the profile picture. Next picture, I'll show you my son. He's a handsome boy. I'll give him that. He's a handsome boy. And it's even then, he's starting to, there's little things like interaction with girls. And it's like, oh, what do you think? And it's like, Nathan, don't ask her what she thinks or what I think. You decide. My son's name's Nathaniel, Nathan.
Okay. Nice
you start. You decide. She'll follow you. Do you know them ones? She'll follow you, bro. Don't even worry about that. She'll follow you. Just like mum follows me, she'll follow you. Just make a choice and stick by it. Even if it's wrong, if she's got you, she'll stick with you. It's cool, bro. Just carry on. And there's not enough of that with us. Like you said, why it matters. Even simple decision making. And I hate to say it, but sometimes this is why I don't even really argue when sometimes other races look down on us, particularly the men. Because look, Vincent, you're going to be a pilot. Why it matters, you're doing your thing. Me, I'm doing my thing. but we're only the few of us. We're good examples for our race, but we're not enough. So to be honest, I kind of get Fiona's point sometimes. I can make all the points I want about women smile, but I'm irrelevant because I'm already married. And when it comes to statistics, like say White Matters puts out, like White Matters, your video that was added on to mine, which was very good, by the way. I love it, by the way. The statistics, no problem, bro. It added some statistics to the, because it was quite emotional and opinion based, so statistics. But end of the day, I can put all the videos I want. I'm a minority. Why? Because I'm on the smaller scale of statistics because I'm married under 40.
Yeah.
I can talk all the shit I want. My wife's Caribbean. I have a son. I've got a degree. I've got a yard. So I actually tick every single box and I'm under 40. But I'm in the smaller scale. So really, I don't really matter.
But I would, in your defense though, KB, because this is something which, to be fair, on another live stream, I'll probably love to have a conversation about fatherhood, and because we need more examples like yourself, even though you're right in a sense of, I won't say irrelevant, that's the wrong word to use. You're not on the market or anything, but you're still an example that a lot of us need to set, because you're married, you got kids, you've done it the right way, you're under 40. So that is the foundation. Because again, Fiona was mentioning, and the same thing, which I agree with, the foundation of leadership starts in the home. So you being that man of the house, you being there in your capacity, that's how it all starts. That's how we change the perception. So don't not downplay what you've done. What you've done seems for standard, but no, it's not standard here. It's big. We should get more people to be of that mindset to do those things. So
you know what? I will say this, like in terms of a black man finding a woman who actually properly let him take the lead, you know, and be subservient, acquiescent. I think a lot of black men need to actually find a girl who likes them for them, like actually likes them, because I feel like a lot of men, especially black men, are with women that don't really like them and only with them because they're famous or successful or have a certain job.
Of an asterisk. You know what? You're right, bro. Bro, can I go as far as to say some girls will even, let's say us four, because of the whole black man sexual hypersexualness as well?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. The whole man lingo, or that whole hypersexuality, that kind of. Oh yeah.
Can I just interject real quick, right? Why I even came up, because I didn't really have anything useful to say prior. But you said something, KB, that resonates with me very well, right? When you said that you often defer to your wife when it comes to decision making. And you know what, right? It's really been in the last year or so that I've noticed that I'm often saying, okay, like if I have to make a decision, right? Even if I'm out and about myself, right? I will literally call my mum and I'm like, hey mum, what do you think? Should I buy this? Should I do? And I've been catching myself, and I'm just like, I might, like, seriously. It can even be something as simple as, like, you know, going to the barbershop, right, and getting a haircut. I'll be like, hey mum, what do you think about this? You know, I'm just like, wow. So, you know, my question to you, White Matters and Kate Jones, seeing as you both grew up in a single parent home, right? How is it now? Is it like compared to when you were younger, right? Are you like, how do you navigate, right, in terms of making choices and decisions? If you guys can answer that question.
Sure. So for me, funny enough, I always look at in a way of what not to do, and hopefully that should be in the right path. So whether it be any red flags in regards to dating choices, so I'm like, I already know, don't even go near there. Navigating life in terms of options, decisions. A lot of times I look at what not to do, and that normally steers me in the right track. Now, I will say this though, and to my point I made beforehand, and to your point, Vincent, there's still times where I'm like, I'm not fully confident in myself to make that final decision. So like at work or something, I will defer. I'll be. You can sometimes tell, and people have noted it, that you just don't have that. Just say the word. I don't have that confidence within myself. Sort of goes to that next level, because people say, "Oh, you're very competent. You're very this," and people say, "You're very this. You sound like this. You're very this." But people don't know internally. I'm like,
exactly.
I'm battling myself. I'm really battling myself. And that's and it does. And again, it could be, and it probably is, because as great as your mum has been, your mum still can't teach you how to be a man. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It
needs that male presence. And that's where it is.
KB, and then if you wanted to answer the question as well. So
yeah, sure. In terms of myself, it's definitely been a steep learning curve. I would say having my son definitely, even though I had my son at quite an early age, I basically, my wife was pregnant with my son when I was in my last year of uni.
Okay.
So by the time my son was born, I was just turning like 22, 23.
Okay.
And he's just about to turn like 10 now. So it's been a steep learning curve. I'm really glad I had a boy, if I'm honest.
Okay.
No, it's true. I mean, I do like, I don't know if many men like feel like this, but I really crave
Yeah.
having a girl. Like we've talked to me and my wife have talked about this. If we have another child, it'll be a girl. Or if we can help it, we really would like a little girl.
Okay.
Can I just ask one little thing? Sorry, KB, on that you really wanted a boy. Is that because you felt as if you wanted to kind of steer
Yes, white.
correct or wrong, but steer your boy into a way which you probably didn't have yourself? Does that make sense?
So, can I just interject very quick? Why it matters for me that yes, but carry on, KB. Sorry for doing that, but yeah.
No, that's fine. I was gonna say, do you know what? No, that's actually spot on. Literally, even before, even when I was at the age of like sort of 16, 17, when I was sort of having thoughts of future me being a dad, that is one thing I really prided myself on. And it's unfortunate as a black man that that has to be your main focus on, because of the way our community is set up and the way we sort of seem to sort of carry on and reinforce these negative things. That was such a big focus of mine, of just trying to be a dad that my dad wasn't. Because to be honest, if my mom and dad were still married today, my dad is one of those dads where financially and materially, that's fine. I never wanted for stuff materially. I've had all the clothes and computer games, and I was one of those people that I started driving early. I started driving as soon as I turned 17, you know, the type of ones.
Yeah.
So that bit, it wasn't, I've never really wanted for that. It's not really, I'm not really worried about being broke or money, but love and nurturing is something, if I'm honest, I definitely learned while I was with my girlfriend turned now wife, and definitely after I had a child, because when he came, it was almost like, oh shit, there's like forget my missus for a minute. There's a whole nother life that depends on me.
Right.
Like if I F up tomorrow, I you know what I mean? I can sort myself out. I'm from road. I'm used to surviving. But it's not only her I got to worry about. Forget her. It's this little person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's not only this little person that's relying on me for everything. I've also got to teach him to turn into a man, and then for him to do the same thing I want to do. And that's all with encompassing that I already had that, because realistically, if I'm going to be honest, I really only had a strong, influential dad influence to the age of about 7.5, 8. My parents were divorced by the time I was 8 years old. And then, it wasn't just they divorced. My dad made a point of, which a lot of Gen Xers did, is of disappearing completely. That whole thing of they couldn't. Basically, my dad's thing is he couldn't have my mom anymore. He fucked up so much that my mom said, you know what, I've had enough. So basically, me and my sister wouldn't exist because he couldn't have my mom. It's one of those type of attitudes, to be honest. And I made a point of saying to myself, I will never, no matter what happens with me and my missus, my son will never feel the brunt of that. I said to myself, if me and her was to ever break up, he's never going to see the arguments. It's going to be one of those smooth transitions, like that. Okay, mom and dad ain't together, but
right,
I still can say mom and dad, definitely.
Right.
And yeah, my son's only 10 now, so I don't know if it's age or just within myself or just anything, because it sounds really stupid to say, but me and my son are really close. It's the case of he aesthetically he looks like his mum, but character-wise, behavior-wise, speech-wise,
It's like you.
thought pattern-wise, he's me.
Mm.
He carries himself like me. It's little things like, and this is why I don't understand dads. Like when you become a dad yourself, especially when you got a boy as a
Yeah.
male, and when you see
Mm.
this little person that mimics you, and
Right.
and he does subconscious little things where your missus don't pick up, but my mum will pick up and be like, "Oh my gosh, he's really your boy. You sit like that, or you used to say that, or
Right.
you used to pull that face." You know them tiny little things that you can't
Right.
mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm really responsible for this person, and literally everything I do, everything I say, and then in turn the way I treat his mum and everything else, and the way I interact with grandma, be it my mom and his auntie, my sister, and everyone else, is gonna teach him how I should be, because he's the first male,
Mhm.
the most important male. I'm the most important male in his life. That's gonna
Yeah.
teach him ABC.
Right.
So in turn with that, since my son's young, my son's very multi-skilled. I try to teach him as much life skills as possible, i.e., he knows how to swim from a very young age. He knows how to ride his bike very young. He knows how to ride a skateboard. He's into football, but also I'm getting into coding. I want him to be as much life skilled as possible, because it's those things which I think in a lot of ways stop, especially the now generation of black men leading. We don't have as much intricate life skills to give us many options. It's like we're only good at one thing.
Mm-hmm.
When I've grown up with people that are good at many little things, but they pick one to focus on. And it's like, when it comes to black males, we're good at one thing and we run with it. I.e., we're good with our speech pattern. Oh, I'm going to be a rapper. I used to rap. I've got songs on YouTube with my friends. But, because you're a good public speaker, I've got to rap. Like, you know what I mean? There's so many things you can do with that. Rather than or little things like I'm curious about our community, rather than being something to do with history or something along those lines, it has to be something else. So I try to teach him as many life skills as possible. So when he gets to 15, 16, in the next 4 or 5, 6 years, when he actually starts making his own life decisions, he's got 5 or 6 things that I've taught him how to do. Pick one, bro. Pick 2 if you want to. If you want, you know what I mean? But I've taught him everything you need to go. You just have to pick one because dad can run fast. You know what I mean? I don't need to be a footballer because I used to play football. I don't need to be, I have to be a footballer. Do you know what I mean? So
KB, do you know how jealous I actually feel right now just hearing all of that? Like, what I mean by that is that I honestly wish I had that. For example, like you said, all these life skills. I don't even know how to change a tire. You know, even something as basic as like for example, like maybe trying to change the door knob, you know, off a door. I struggle with things like that. It just you have no idea how much I look down on myself, honestly. Like, I really, in terms of my masculinity, I'm often I feel so deeply ashamed that so many things, right, that are, literally every man is supposed to know. I don't,
I will say, sorry. I will say this because you mentioned that I've felt the same way before. Like, I think I even looked online, where places you can learn like DIY skills. That you can do courses for like a week after work that teach you how to do fix things, put tables together, and repair things. And these are skills you can learn. As a man, changing your tire is actually quite easy. When you search up on YouTube, like there's things you can learn, and it can take you like 15 minutes to learn it. Even such as like when I mentioned before, cutting your own hair. That in itself is masculine.
Wait. So hold on. So wait, you actually cut your own hair, right? You said.
Yeah.
So in terms of like your shape up and that, like how do you?
Right, you know what, bro? Your fade sharp,
Get that
Right.
I'm looking at
mirror,
your profile. You're fade
I'm
sharp,
just,
you know.
get the
yeah.
rulers, get that down there.
Yeah.
That picture is
Okay.
actually before I started cutting
Ah,
the
I hear
Right.
it.
yeah.
No,
But yeah,
seriously.
it's not that hard. It's really quite easy and it saves money. Yeah.
Look, Unstoppable. Even stuff like shaving, right? Up till now, I still cut myself, right? It got to a point I have to like use this powder that I would like use on my face, and then after like 10 minutes, it just takes off all the hair, right?
do you
I
wet?
still
Do you wet
struggle
shave?
with, huh?
Do you wet shave?
No, well, I did the very first
You
time
don't
I
do that
did.
as a
Right?
black guy.
I
Yeah,
was
don't do that.
bleeding all over the sink. Like there was so much blood. You know the way you cut a Christmas potato, right? And then Christmas, right? That's how I did mine.
Oh my lord.
It was so bad. Yeah. So ever since, right? I've been trying to shave like that, but it's just I just wait till I go to barbers and yeah, because yeah.
This goes even like with what Vincent was saying, about money. I mean, what we're talking about in terms of money and women, this ties into this topic in terms of taking the lead. Like, I think a lot of guys, even today, especially if you live close to Canary Wharf, because I live in Southeast London, not too far from there. Growing up in London, it kind of makes you dependent on your money, where you'll pay someone to do it. I feel like if you live in a house and you're the man of the house and you have something to fix and you pay someone to do it, I feel like your woman can lose attraction for you. So you should never really use your money as a substitute for masculinity. And this is why I believe
You think?
even
Yeah,
if you
that's
do
true.
get your money up, it's not going to solve your woman problems. It's just not.
You raise a very, very fair point about that,
True.
because there's been other school of thoughts which, because it takes time to do the things that you mentioned. For example, if I was to like wallpaper, because I've done wallpapering, which is flipping annoying, or paint, or decorating, or all these things which
Right.
takes time. I'm not saying it's not masculine, but then you're thinking it's easier to pay somebody. But
Right.
whereas other people are thinking time is more important, therefore you have the money, pay someone to do it properly, as opposed to you fumbling and bumbling. But you know what? You do raise a point where I've heard a lot of women say they do like a guy, or it's something intrinsic where
Right.
that's the masculine energy that they can feel, because you can change a tire, you can what the earth, when it comes to plug sockets, earth, and that kind of other stuff. These
You
are
know
type
why it matters? Why it matters? You know what? Sorry to cut you, bro. You actually
of,
saying it makes me want to ask you a question, right? Especially, and I don't know if this is going to be slightly specific to black men, but what is more masculine? This is a general question, because you bring up something very interesting. Being able to have the money to just buy a maid, buy a mechanic, buy a what's the name,
Right.
or being able to do it yourself. What's more masculine in you guys' opinion? Starting with you, man. Right, man.
Wait.
Vincent,
Having the money to
you're
just
not
buy
there.
people to do those, or just do it yourself.
See,
Sorry. Go on, my man.
See, for me personally, I think this might be I think doing it yourself, but still having the money to be able to do it if you fuck it up. But of the two, I definitely would say, and I miss this myself. Like being a handyman, yes, I think that it does pay. It does pay. I think from a masculinity stage, I think that is exactly what it is. But yeah, Stoic, in the most perfect world, Stoic, it would be both. In the most perfect world, but of the two, I think it'd be doing it myself.
KB, can you repeat the question again? I didn't really catch that, so I wasn't really paying attention.
No, that's fine. That's fine. No, I was just saying. So things like be able to fix things in your car, things fix in your house. Now, is it more of a manly, masculine, a man take charge, a man in charge of his castle state to be able to pay for these type of services to be done at a whim, or to be able to just do them yourself? Like, okay, I got this. What's more of a male thing to do in your opinion? Basically,
I mean, being able to even afford those services, I mean, it's like, wow, okay, at least he has, financial power. But you doing it yourself, especially if you're with a woman, right, it shows that, he really is like a man. I'm gonna say option B.
Okay, yeah. I
And
mean, I would rather do so myself. I mean, it's even you talking about a man, like the whole male thing, why it matters in leading, right?
Right.
Do you know what? It's interesting. I've been in my girlfriend come wife for a number of years. I've known her. Like we were actually quote unquote friends for like 2 years, even though little things happened. But we've been together for a long time. But
Right.
she's seen me through studying and the various companies I've been in, and we've always been not really had a problem in terms of sort of money and employment. It's been other little things we've had to learn.
Mm.
But for the first time in a long time, last year when we was on lockdown, right, when she saw me having to work from home, which a lot of people did, she even told me herself, she was like, you know what? Just the seeing you work from home, she's like, I don't know what it was, but just, and she still says it now because I'm still working sporadically from home. Sometimes I'm on site. She's like, just, it's something just, and she was trying to say it's basically man, like, do you know what I mean? And I just thought, right, okay. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing substitute, like that reminded me of nothing substituting for a man being able to do. Like a man
But
being able to pay, but
mm,
physically being able to just get up and do, okay, I'll fix this.
it's that
Um,
it's that building instinct, isn't it? It's that
right,
that's right.
to
right,
build,
right.
which
But
leads
yeah,
to
yeah,
provide and protect. It's one
right,
of those things where even though nowadays money is kind of that substitute, so
right,
money kind of substitutes a lot of these things. But as Unstoppable Force was saying, it's not a real substitute for true masculinity.
It's not
right.
the
How
same,
we
is it?
define it, because it's that innate building attribute which women like.
You
Um,
know, right
and
now that
one thing I was going to say, sorry, Vincent, is, and let me know if any of you guys on the panel have experienced this, because when we talk about things like that,
mm,
DIY stuff, I got embarrassed. I got embarrassed one time about it was something to do with my car, and I had to
mm.
call my mom to help me out with my car because I had a flat tire.
I can
And
relate.
Imagine.
yo, I'm telling you, do you know,
Yes,
I'm
I
like,
can
I'm
relate.
a big man. Do you know how I felt in that moment, having my
Right,
own mom having to do something which at my big old age, I should have been able to do.
I can relate.
That for me kind of just all my days. That it's just one of those humiliating situations, but I had to
No,
because I didn't have the necessary tools to be able to do it.
can I tell you, why it matters? The same thing as with me, right? There was an issue I was having with my car last year. I can't exactly remember what it was, but I think it had something to do with the tire. My mum just, she gave me the look and said, "What? You mean something as simple as that? I don't know how to do." And I bit my tongue from saying, "Well, I really don't know how to." And I don't know. Again, just like what you said, I felt so embarrassed in that moment, and I have to like often defer to my mum and say, "Mum, how do you do this? How do you do that?" And it's just, I don't know, man. I often feel ashamed, even wanted to ask another man, what do you do in this situation? How do you do this? It's
And the
again, it's
thing
always,
is, it's not even your fault. It's not our fault. It's not even our fault like that, is it? But no one
yeah,
cares about it. It's not your fault. They're just seeing you as a big old man. I can't do it. That's all they're seeing. They're not seeing, oh well, you were raised in a situation. It's okay. No.
right, right.
People don't care about your problems. You can't do it. You know what I mean?
It's
No,
just my opinion. Just one thing I realized that it, I think a black man needs at least 3 years by himself, man. Like to not just make money, but to go to the gym and build a body, grow your beard out. Use minoxidil on your face so the hairs fill in. Which is a product that fills in the hair. Maybe cut your hair yourself, and just to develop your own masculinity, just for 3 years.
Unstoppable, right? Where did you learn all these skills, if you don't mind me asking? Like, did you search it up online or what?
Yeah, so like searching things online, even with like women, I know a bit about women. I know quite a lot about women and how to attract women, what women want.
Mm.
Even like what is the best races for a black guy to go for.
You said best race.
No, sorry, the best race for like a black guy to go for. In terms of women and just things like that. What is good
Oh,
for you.
okay, right. Mm. KB, you have any tips, advice, or
Um, well, you know what I will say is this is it's a good start because even for people that are millennials, like say me and Why Matters age, I think it's good. I mean, we all went through that sort of issue in terms of trauma. I mean, even someone like you, Vincent, in terms of the educational side, that's something that was, you know, for example, your particular family, forget the fact you're Nigerian, your individual family was instilled in you, which is very good, you know, and our community, unfortunately, is lacking behind in that, which should be a basic male trait, because Western education is here and available. It's not closed off to us anymore. It's been available for 50, 60, 70 years. So that's good. So we definitely need more. So scholars like yourself, we need, like, look, I've got a degree too, but more I'll just consider a scholar, because not only are you studying, but the craft you're doing is so particular. It's a craft. Excuse the pun, because I know you're flying aircraft. I don't excuse the pun. But it's such a niche craft, but it's such an eye opener that someone like yourself is an inspiration to maybe another young man. You're your early 20s, so maybe a 14, 15-year-old is gonna look at Vincent and be like, right, okay, I can be a pilot, you know.
Right.
I can at least try. The problem with our community is it's not that we don't. It's not so much that we don't do, and I'm talking about particularly the males, because the males are the constructive ones of any community. I think a lot of the time is that we don't try, and it's partly to do with we almost have the perception of we're not allowed to do it. We're supposed to do it. Even in my big 30+ age, I'm still hearing people my age and older still describing things as white people stuff. Bruv, it's 2021, fam. Like,
it's the same in my.
Is white people stuff. You might as well dash away your iPhone then, because that's white people stuff.
I do say that sometimes. You know, I'm not gonna like as a joke to black people. I do say some stuff like going to like a rock club or something like that. I'm like, nah, that's white people stuff. You know what I mean? I do that sometimes. I ain't gonna lie to you.
No, but you know what, Joe? Bro, you know what? There is a couple of things that are a bit, yeah, black people ain't gonna do that. Like, you know them ways. Like, I agree, but I think as an overall, I think we take it like you saying it as banter to things like rock climbing. Even though I've done rock climbing in Wales, I love abseiling. By the way, I'm a bit weird like that. Maybe
that's not weird.
Not rock climbing.
Maybe I'm a bounty. I don't know. But
sorry, not rock climbing. It was a rock club.
Oh, rock club. Oh, okay, yeah, definitely. That's a white thing still. Yeah. Oh no, I ain't doing that, fam. But it's see, the problem with us is that it's like we take that all encompassing, and I think I said this before. There's certain intricate things I learned, and when I went to university in Bristol, right, which is predominantly a white city. I mean, sorry, a black city. Sorry.
Oh, is it? Bristol.
Okay. Yeah. There's a lot of black people in Bristol.
Yeah, there is.
Especially places like Thurston and stuff like that.
Yeah.
St. Paul's is very black.
Yep.
I spent a lot of time in St. Paul's. That's why I lived when I was in Bristol, if I didn't come home. But just being around other cultures, and I've got to be honest, around white people, and in terms of when I started to enter the workforce and stuff, it's little tiny things they taught me. And it was embarrassing because it's like, right, I didn't know that. Do you know them ones? Like,
yeah.
And this is part of the thing. And do you know what? I got to say with the men, we can't put it on any, like, where we was brought up mostly by single moms or not. There comes a point where I'm a strong believer in, look, there's so much you can blame in your circumstance, your family and stuff. But once you get to the point of realization, which for most people comes somewhere between 15 and 25, you can't blame them anymore. Like, especially in the age we are now, this is the age of information. It's not the situation of black people where it's illegal for black people to even read. Do you know them ones?
Right.
We know what we need to do. So, you know, especially as men, there's no point complaining about it. Like, a lot of black men are just happy with the fact of, okay, everybody wants to sleep with us. Okay, we know that already. What's the next step? Do you know the ways? Like, what's the next step?
And this is what I was going to ask. Go on, bro. This was going to ask the panel about almost masculinity, but what is the standard? What is the blueprint, if there is one? Because obviously things aren't so black and white. Not everyone wants to be in sort of the industry that people are in. It depends on what they are. But is there at least a blueprint, a standard that needs to be held for like for men to be masculine in terms of, is it a in whatever industry it's to be at the top of that industry? What do we have a blueprint as to what we should be as a black male? Do we any sort of
competent?
Can I answer that first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no problem.
I think we do. I think we understand. I think in the black community and as black males that we understand the concept of needing to come first in no matter what we're in. I think our problem is what we select to participate in, because when it comes to music, sports, and let's be honest, women, we're happy to come first, and let's be honest, even compete to come first. Partly because we feel confident that we're going to win. But when it comes to things we're uncertain of, and I'm thinking of, and this is highly embarrassing, I'm going to do a video about this. And do you know what? What made me think of this is one of your videos, Why It Matters. By the way, your videos are so thought-provoking. I really love your channel, by the way, bro.
Yeah.
The recent video that you did, the last one, and I think about a lot of males that are like, even, I've got to be honest, 30 plus, and things like their basic IT skills, it's not even that they're lacking, they're actually technophobes. And it's like, bruh, you're a millennial. How are you a technophobe? Like, we basically invented the fucking internet. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean?
We were there at the exception. We
were the guinea pigs. Like, we know what I mean?
Yeah, the dial-up, the NTL world. We know all that stuff. So yeah, that's weird. That is weird.
Whether you're a young millennial or an older millennial, and I found, even if you're on the younger scale, because the younger millennials I think are like 26 right now, the youngest millennials right now. But even them, do you know what I mean? And the oldest are, I think, 40, 41 at the moment. Like little things like that. And I found all them little tiny things are like, I always find it with black males. When it comes to a lot of other males, particularly when it came to like white and Asian, it was like these things were like normal. It was like, I suppose this is where some ways I sort of fell out of my community, because little tiny things like, you know, the concept of using forget even a Mac, because people think I just want an iMac or this or the iMac. Bruv, do you know how to even scroll with that properly? It's not normal. It's not with a mouse, you know. You know them ones, like even to navigate a Mac. Do you know how to move around a Mac, bro?
That is a new skill, man. When my brother's
like,
what the heck?
Go on.
No, I agree with you. Like, and it's little things like that. It's little things like using Excel, Word, PowerPoint. These basic IT skills, where, to be honest, I learned by the time before I was even doing my A-levels. And, you know, back then, the biggest computer back then was, I think, Dell computers, and there was HPs and stuff. Macs weren't really that big. There was the odd Mac, but not that big. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't standard like now. And even basic IT skills, like you know what? I don't mean to embarrass the black man then, but there's even certain men that even saying to me, bro, I beg you do my CV for me. Bro, I'm gonna be honest.
You said CV?
Bro, I gotta be honest. Look, there's certain man, and because especially I'm in IT, they're like, not only can you do my CV, oh bro, you can do it, boom, especially where you work. And you know them ones, listen to the wording, where you work. They can't even fully even like articulate what
themselves.
I do.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
You know,
because
we need to
do
do
you know them? It's so technical for them. You just
Yeah.
do IT, bro. I don't even know what you do. He just does IT. He just does the IT. That's my version. Does IT. Do you know what I mean? There's this limited type of thinking. Like,
Yeah.
we need to do a stream about how black men, even how they speak at a big old age, they sound like a 15-year-old child. There's certain. I grew out of saying things. Honestly, I grew out of saying things when I was 15 years old. So much so that I'm like, why are you older than me, 35 plus year old, still you say it after every sentence, you know them way there. I'm thinking to myself, I know I'm serious. And then, like, big man thing, I'm like, listen, I understand that with all your peers, you say these things, but these are people who are representing us. And like, there needs to be a stream about we don't have this grown up mentality. How there's certain things we should leave behind once we get to certain
We're
age.
really immature as a race. I've got to
Thank
be honest.
you.
We're
So
really
that's the reason
immature.
why, yo, beg me do me CV. You should be doing I did CV when I was in school because that was one of the things you had to do.
Bro,
You know,
it's really, bro. I've got to be honest. It's really, bro. I've done 2-3 men's CVs, and I've got to be honest, guys. These men are. One of them's like 40 plus. His son is like 15, 16. He's about to do his GCSEs, and he's asking me to do. Bro, I'm not even lying here. It was so embarrassing, and I've got to be honest. I did this man's CV from top to bottom, and I was embarrassed doing every word of it. I've got to be honest.
Do you know what? Now that you say that, right, KB, I had to look it up online because I didn't really know. Because again, I was kind of new to it. But I mean, at that age, at 40 plus, like that's just that's frankly embarrassing, to be honest with you. You know, even me myself, I'm very hard on myself the way I speak. I'm trying to even improve the way I articulate myself because I feel like I'm still at a very basic level. You know, but yeah.
And the problem with that, and it goes into now the black masculinity where that's seen as a white thing to try and articulate yourself. You know what I mean? It's like now we get into a situation now where to better yourself in quotation and to do say the right things, speak the right things, or do delay gratification. Don't necessarily spend money on BS, trainers, coats that cost the earth, cars that that's finance. Which is like now it comes into, it's not just about masculinity, but that's white masculinity. I'm like. For me, there's no real difference like that. You know what I mean? But let's be honest, we do have that pressure because we're black to do it differently. I'm like, oh my days. You know what I mean? So even that, I feel as if how we define masculinity, a lot of times it's like, as long as it's not like the white man, that's fine. And that's how it dissolves into just BS.
So I'm sorry, I'm cracking up on what CB said, bro. I just thought I was with you, bro, because I swear. No, but you know what? The joke thing is, do you know what? I think I brought this up about brethrens and things, bro. You see, when I told these men that, like, because I really wanted to get into, okay, so it was Bristol, it was Leeds, and I think it was it one of the Manchester ones. There was 3 particular unis that had a particular bachelor's I wanted to do with psychology because I got a particular psychology degree. And Bristol was one of those places which I already liked. And I was so happy to get in. Now, anyone that's been in university, when you want to go to a particular place, when you get that acceptance letter, that feeling is like, oh my God, thank fuck. So I was happy. So I started telling the man them. And the way these niggas looked at me, oh, this guy thinks he's prestige, What, he's going to be bruv. Jesus Christ, bruv. You would have thought I sold the whole ends out by going to uni. When I come back, oh, this guy thinks he's a superstar, What you saying? What, you got your degree thing yet? Yeah. I said, bruv, I've got like 3 years left. Oh, this guy thinks he's tough, Oh, go back with the bruv. It was mad. Bro, all I did is go to get an education. I didn't do nothing else, Nothing, bro.
That's jealousy, man. That's that jealousy talk.
Jealous, right.
And that's how men do it. That's how it is, just to try and bring you down. Like, who this man think he is? Yeah, that's what it is, isn't it? So
that's the kind of attitude. Like, and I got to be honest, because I'm Ghanaian, it's where I kind of had that bit of that, like, oh, these African man, they do that, innit? And it's like,
are you serious?
Kind of, yeah, but they seem to be forgetting I'm the same guy that was on road with them doing a madness before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just that reality kicked in and I said, you know what, either I do it or I don't. Do you know what I mean? So I did it.
Can I just say, right, this is something that now that I remember, right, when we had our very first live stream and Stephen Devonshire was on your live stream, right, KB, and we were talking, my background in there, and he said to me, but one thing that still sticks in my mind up till today, he said, I'm sure that you must be, looking down on other black men. And now that I think of it, it's actually true, I do. Because when I was in secondary school, if I, on exams or that, I might get A stars or A's, right? Most of the other, the black kids, right, usually they were Caribbean, right? They'll say, oh, Why didn't you come and hang with us? Do this. Why don't you smoke weed or stuff like? It's just anyway. It's just it's just bringing me back to when I was in secondary school. But yeah,
No, but
carry on.
bro,
Yeah.
even you saying that, yeah, look
Mhm.
at the trait still. Look, I'm not perfect for all my educational
Yeah.
accomplishment. For much as I try to pull away, you guys
Yeah.
see me, I still fucking smoke weed.
Mm.
So we've got so many problems in the black community. Even for someone like me, I've ticked all the boxes. I'm married. I'm in my
Mhm.
son's life. I bring up
Yeah.
my son. I did my
Mhm.
education. I got my
Mhm.
degree.
Right.
I still support my mum. We have that
Mhm.
in our community. Me and my
Of
sister
course.
still support my mum. I'm still very
Yeah.
active in my family's life. But
Yeah.
still, if someone wants to take that all away and just see me just at this moment, I'm
Right.
smoking a joint.
Right.
Do you
But
know
can
them
I?
ones? Like,
Yeah, yeah. Can I just say real quick, right? All those accomplishments that you just listed, right? Would you not agree that in other communities that that's just seen as the bare minimum
standard. Yes,
Yeah.
or
sir.
on average? But
100%.
yeah, exactly. But to us in the black community, it's seen as wow, like that's like the best of the best. If you guys get
Even
what
even
I'm
even
saying.
take away all of those and just do me
Right.
just bro, just me getting the letter. I hadn't even done the full fucking years at uni yet. I could have dropped out after 6 months.
Mm.
Just that alone was this big deal. Do you know what I mean? But at the
Right.
flip side,
Mm.
me having Nathan, me having my son
Yeah.
was, oh, he's so cute, but it wasn't, oh my gosh, you're having a son. You're in the last year of you. Like,
Mm.
bruv, my girlfriend at the time, wife
Mhm.
now, fell pregnant with my son when I had about 9 months left of uni. If I was any other race, they
Right.
would have gone in on me. They would have been like, bruv, are you fucking stupid? You've got your
Mhm.
last year left. How are you going to go and get your girl pregnant? Do you know what everybody said? Oh, your baby's going to be bare cute.
Are you serious?
That,
Wow.
bro, that's been Nathan's since he's been born. Oh, he's so
Right.
cute. Forget the fact that she just because my missus is like 18 months older than me.
Mhm.
So she just finished uni. I was about to finish uni. Between both of us, that wasn't really, we've said this over years, it wasn't
Mm.
the best time to have a kid.
Right. Right. Right.
We couldn't have timed it worse. Everybody was happy about it because the child's going to be cute. That's
Mm.
all everyone cared about. Do you know what I mean?
And
And
that's
again, that's our
that's
community again.
completely messed up, isn't it? And to your point, then I just want to sort of bring it around because I kind of want to sort of end the stream. We've been going for like over 3 hours now.
Mm.
Um,
Right. Right.
I understand why, because Fiona was up on the chat earlier on. If you catch a playback, and one of the things which was mentioned was about, do black women expect too much from black men in terms of because also we claim we want patriarchy, we want submission, and with that comes standards. It becomes we need to be the adequate leaders. And Fiona was saying, we think we get the bare, ask for the bare minimum based on other races. And what you just said, KB, is exactly right. What we see as great is standard when it comes to other races. And that's how I'm like, we should aim high and have a standard, which to other races, it's a lot, but to us, it's standard. We should be that trendsetter to say, do you know what? Okay, you guys got a degree, we have a PhD. That's us, that's
Right.
standard. You know,
Right.
it has to
Exactly.
be that, but we need to set ourselves that standard that says we will beat that standard. Because when it comes to sports, music, we have no problem saying, oh, we're going to be better than that person. But when it comes
Right.
to real life issues, that's
Yeah.
where as men we need to set that standard. And then,
You know what I'll just say in terms of what you said, in terms of like women being submissive to black men and things like that. When it comes to other communities, like Asian communities, because I've actually seen how some of these people interact. Like a lot of the times, like the Asian wives are talking to their Asian husbands like garbage, you know, and it's usually
Yeah.
embedded into their culture to basically prep the daughter to use someone for money and to get with someone who has money. And a lot of times you see women in marriages and the woman is not really in love. She's just there to just do the job, but she doesn't really love the guy.
Mm.
and here's the
So
thing, I don't disagree. There will always be that. And that's why I say this. That's just us getting our shit together is just what we should be doing. Forget women, just for us to live a life. If we want kids, we should be able to provide for our families. I think there's other aspects where you talk about unstoppable here is to not get played by the woman, basically not set ourselves up to be used just based on our resources. So what I think you're saying is just know women will use you for your resources if you ain't careful, if you ain't if you present yourself in a certain way, which will let them lead you. If you see what I mean. So I think there's two things here. We need, as ourselves, have a standard, which is we have a standard in place for maybe finances, health, masculinity. But you're right to your point. That can happen. That does happen in regards to women using other guys just for their financial gain.
Yeah. Because I definitely, because the last girl I was talking to, I feel like in the beginning she liked me, for me, and then she changed, and it's clear she was looking for someone that basically, even from her words, I mean, she was said to me over the phone once, if I don't make a lot of money, she's gonna leave me, and I thought she was joking. She wasn't actually joking, and there was just other little things she was throwing, like, do you have road rage? But she was saying that to see if I drive, and just little, because I'm a very smart person. I'm quite good at seeing if someone's trying to manipulate me, and I can just see it's 10 steps ahead. Yeah, this is what this person did. But looking back on it now, I realized that she just wants a guy that she can pretty much just use for money.
Yeah.
Wait,
I'm assuming she wasn't black though, was she? She wasn't black.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask that.
East African, some Somali is a big mistake. Yeah.
All right.
Oh my god, what? A big mistake.
Yeah.
Because of
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Never again. This is what I'm saying. I've tried every type of girl, so I know what is right for me. If I'm honest, like for me personally, the best type of girl for me would be like a black girl or a white girl, and that's it.
Oh, but I thought you said, remember yesterday, like it's only going to be.
Yeah, but it might be a light skinned shade black girl.
Yeah. I prefer like a light skinned black girl, mixture or white, but it doesn't really matter, to be honest.
Fair enough, yeah.
No, that's cool. That's cool. Obviously, that's a different stream, and I'm not gonna get into all that kind of stuff. But
honestly, I just want to say why it matters, right? Your channel is a blessing. Like honestly, for me, even coming out of my shell and just even some of what I've said has even been kind of a shock to me because I'm actually now verbally expressing things that I've held back for decades, really, for so many years. I've been like replaying the live streams, and I'm just like, wow, I've really kept all of this in. I appreciate you inviting, Maz, and I look forward to future live stream.
No. I mean, it's been therapeutic, and that's. I mean, obviously, I didn't want it to be therapeutic. That's not how I envisioned it, but just it was a space where we can connect. We could talk about our issues to us in a what we call a safe space where you're not going to get they're like-minded people. I think that's the thing. They're like-minded people who go through the same situation as you have been doing, and it's just. For men, we don't share as we're not a good sharers. Let's be honest. Right. When it comes to our situation, we're not very good sharers. So, I appreciate your honesty as well. It helps. It helps.
Yeah. Can I just say
same with you?
Yeah. Just say real quick, Unstoppable. Do you see what CP wrote that?
Yeah. I saw you wrote. Yeah. That was funny.
But wasn't slick enough though. Wasn't slick enough. But to Steel's Man Reloaded comment, absolutely. And any woman of can be gold diggers no matter what race. Right. And to be fair though, if women are gold diggers, then aren't we kind of like beauty diggers? I mean, is that not a fair equivalent? If women are looking for the guy who owns a lot of money, we're looking for, let's be honest, the baddest.
I think from my experience, it seems like some women only want a guy that has a lot of money, and then some women want a guy that they actually like. So it depends what the girl's looking for.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But would you say having both is good, right? Because when that question was asked, would you rather have a woman that's just only sexually attracted to you, or would you prefer a woman that she's attracted to you because you can provide? What's wrong with both?
The thing is, if a woman, the thing is, if she's sexually attracted to you, she can be attracted to you because you provide. But if she's just attracted to you because you provide, that means she doesn't really like you. That's not natural. You see what I mean? It's not a natural attraction.
No, I get you. And I think to Vincent's point, I think what Vincent wants is the perfect both. So Vincent wants the situation where, let's just say, I was going to think of Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie. Both are attractive. Both have a lot of money. Or you know what I mean? I think it's the both thing he wants. And I don't see why it can't happen. And it's not going to happen. We have you're sexually attracted to that person and you can provide. So,
okay. Because like in this space, right? What the whole thing of black women should choose better, or they should aspire, like they should be going for the nerds, all that. So that's why I said that, right? If essentially we're telling them go for men that can provide for you. Now hearing that, if you're just only attracted to me because I can provide for you, then it's just that's why I was trying to make that.
You know what? It depends on who you listen to, like always in this space. So I know what you're saying. There are other content creators who tell you basically it's all about the wallet. It's all about the value in that respect, is what you earn. And then there are other people in this space who will say it's all about sexual attraction. It's all about the lust factor. You know what I mean? So there's different rules of thought. Personally, I found with sexual attraction, like Unstoppable Force is saying, that's usually the best way, because especially as guys, you don't really want to be used for your wallet, or maybe some people do. Personally, most men I've encountered, they don't want to be used for their finances. They want a woman who wants them and loves them because they like who they are, not what they can provide for them.
The thing is, when a woman is in love with you, she will actually submit to you.
Yeah.
When she isn't, she won't.
Yeah, that's true. I agree.
Yeah. No. I agree. But I think to that point, in regards to most guys want a peace of mind, a lot of times that comes after they've gone for the latter part, where they're trying to get that piece of tail who they know who's crazy, they know they shouldn't go with, but she's fine. So similar to how we complain to women about they choose the wrong type of guy when they're younger, and then once they're old and they've wised up, now they want the guy who can provide for them. That's kind of what you're saying there. It's a similar thing, but just in a guy's favor. Where we look for the now we want the feminine, now we want the submissive lady. Where when we're younger, we don't care if she got a fat ass or big titties, and what you like, that's what I'm going to go for or go after. So it's I get what you're saying, but yeah, cool. It works both ways.
I have one more question, right? So obviously, sorry, just very quick, right? Just to add on to what I said, right? So, like I said, right, in this space, right, it's, okay, black women, you should choose better. In your prime, you should be aiming for the doctors, the lawyers, and that. What about young black men? I never ever hear the type of women that we should be going for, if you get what I'm trying to say. Like, what would your advice be to a younger black male? What type of girl should we be looking for, if you know what I'm saying?
Who's that question for?
Either of you, either one.
I mean, I do hear the type of women that men should go for, which is, I mean, it depends on age bracket, because essentially you want a woman who's going to be, again, cooperative, agreeable, feminine, fit. That they're the traits that you look for in a woman who's looking to build with you, not just leech off you. So that's kind of the stay I would always say in regards to that. A woman who likes you for you. For me, that doesn't change regardless of what age.
Okay.
That's how I always understood it. I don't know if you heard something different though, but yeah.
Okay. Well, cheers. Thank you.
I think for me personally, let's say you're 30 years old, from the age of 18 to 28, you should just be focusing on yourself, date here and there, have fun. But in terms of you going for a woman, I think you should go for a woman that's a bit younger than you, not older than you. So like a rule of thumb, be 18 to 25 would be a good age range.
And that's usually when the guy, what would you say, 32 onwards, would you say?
Even 40, 18 to 25 is good, I think.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. You said a 40-plus-year-old should be with an 18 to 25-year-old girl?
Yeah.
Isn't that a bit... I don't know, that seems a bit...
Yeah, I've never fully... I understand what he's saying. I've never fully agreed with that notion. I'm not saying not to go for a younger woman, but there's for me, the age gap is too...
that's a bit too much. Like, I can understand like an 8... Yeah, go on, white man.
I was saying, I don't know if you know, Boris Johnson got married over the weekend, and he's 60 or 55, and his missus is 35.
That's 20-something. It's just a...
But to myth twist, you're right. Not in general, unless you are the top echelon. And I hear this a lot in these spaces, and I know they're BSing. Most of these guys who are 40, 50 plus, they ain't getting them. If they can't get them when 18, they ain't getting them when they're 40. Most of these guys.
Actually, there's a guy on YouTube that I know. Some of his videos are funny, but he practices polygyny. He has two wives, and one of his wife, he's like 48 or 49, and his wife is like 26.
But can I ask you a question though? Is he one of the rare guys in terms of he has either a big following, so he has status?
Nah, he has no big following.
Really? Okay. Fair enough.
I
mean, I'm not saying there aren't exceptions. Trust me, I'm not saying there aren't exceptions, but just from the eye test, unless you are in a very, very rich, you're a rich person, you're not seeing that often. You just don't. So I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I just don't see the average 40-year-old man or ever going with a woman who's 18 to 25. I think most women that age look at 40-year-old men as deaf.
Right. I was gonna say that, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, one thing I learned is better if the girl is at least like 2 years younger than me, no more than 6.
Yeah. Fair.
4 years for me, to be honest. That's my
Yeah, and that's what most people do. They most have like a 5-year sort of range that they accept. Obviously, for guys, it's usually younger for obvious reasons.
So why it matters? You wouldn't date an older woman, would you?
No, I wouldn't. It would have to be younger or roughly around the same age. I mean, I suppose when you say older, if it's not like a couple of months to maybe a year, okay. But we were talking about 3, 4, 5. Okay, no.
Right.
But yeah, that's me. But what I want to do right now, I think it's a great time to end the situation, end the stream. I want to say big up to everyone on the stream. Thank you guys on top of Force, Vincent, for being on there. Thank you for your conversation. I do appreciate it. Thank you to everyone in the chat. I've not said this in a while, but if you are new, please subscribe to the channel, like the stream, share the stream. I do appreciate you all in the chat, and for those who are listening on the playback, thanks to everyone who was up here beforehand. KB, you dropped off. I don't know what happened to you at all. Must be that again, that Wi-Fi signal issue we've been having. Fiona, Charles, thank you for coming up here. So I do appreciate it, and yeah, I hope you guys have a great rest of the day or evening, and I'll see you on the next one. Until next time, peace.
Take care. Bye.
Take care.